chat up? Is the chat going? How come I could see the chat? I could see there were people in the chat before I hit go live. And now I can't. Did it wipe all that away? I wish it didn't. Hi, everybody. Welcome into the High Noon Rant with me, Pugs Moran. We do it every day, Monday through Friday, since 2021. That's right, going on 3 years of this narcissistic indulgence that I've been foisting upon my friends and my supporters and the good folks who have been following me and faithful to me and checking out every little piece of stupid content I've created over the years. Thank you to you folks. Hi, Joel. Joel's in the chat room. Man, my allergies are going nuts, and it's because of this weather. It's because of this crazy, it's kind of going to rain, and then it never rains. So excuse me. You know how we get. Byron's here. I got to say hi to my people. Byron's here. Al is here. Come on, everybody. Get in the chat room. What is this show? Well, I'll tell you what it is. This show is a current events driven. It's current events driven. It's hot topics. It's headlines. It's whatever it is that people are talking about. I'm going to rant on it today. It's designed to just give you a well-rounded idea of what people are talking about. It's not particularly well thought through, not even particularly well performed, but it is something that I do every day. So thank you for being here. We perform this show in a stream of consciousness. What is that? That's just me talking. That is no stops, no breaks, no nothing. Whatever is next on deck in my head, it comes out. Some people are like, oh, that's dangerous in the Me Too, cancel me. Oh, cancel me. Oh, please. How could I be canceled any more than I am? I would love to be canceled. That might mean some more listeners. Anyway, I'm not concerned about, saying something that I regret, because here's the thing. Typically when I say things that I regret in this stream of consciousness, and I do from time to time, typically when I do, I immediately go, what? And then I backtrack. And that in and of itself might be interesting. If you're on the spectrum, diagnosed or undiagnosed. Oh, God, my head is killing me. I'm trying to overcome. So I'm not worried about saying anything because I'm not a dick. Anyway, 4 quarters. We do it in 4 quarters. The first quarter we call antecedently on this day. What is that? That's it's this day in history. Quarter 2 is birthdays. You know what that is. Quarter 3 is deads. These are the people who died on this day. And we like to look at them and we go, did they go to heaven or hell? We sit in judgment of them. It's fun. I like it. I like that. I like that part of it. Just for a moment, I get to feel like I have some power. This drip is going to be happening. Hold on. I'm not even drinking. You know what I'm doing? I'm not even drinking hot coffee. You know what this is? Hot water. I'm not sick either. Like I appreciate it, but I'll feel better. I'm not sick. This is just me. This is just who I am. I've been dealing with this forever. Fourth quarter is, of course, going to be all the hot topics and current events and all that good stuff. That's the bulk of the show. The first 3 quarters, not so much. Hi, Iced Symphony is joining us. Jeff is here. Jeff, how you doing? Jeff lives in a state that's been absolutely just shower banged by tornadoes the last couple of days. Jeff is here. Excuse me. All right, so what else do we need to talk about here? Jameson's here. Hi, Jameson. Oh, I know what we need to talk about. That's right. We've got an executive producer on this day. It's our girl, April. It's our croniest of chat friends. April is our executive producer. Hiya, Bill. Hiya, Frank. All right, there you go. Everybody's saying hi now. I need my highs. I need to say hi to everybody individually. Our executive producer is the person who tipped the most the day before. That's how this show has run for all these years. You people keep us alive month to month. This month, we are in Pledge Week, thus the scroll underneath the head. Pledge Week, I don't know what happened this month, but we got into some trouble, and we had an insurmountable number. And then Jameson, yesterday's executive producer, he dropped a bomb, and he made that number manageable. And then I woke up this morning because, to be honest, we didn't get any tips yesterday. Sorry, Barney did his deal. Barney's the best. But it didn't, it didn't move the needle, if you will. So I woke up this morning really upset. I woke up like, man, okay, so it's insurmountable. So not only did we not make the goal for this month, we didn't even come close. And then April, our executive producer, she came in. And now we're down to a measly, where are we at? It was $100, right? Something like that. Is that what this show is? The show needs to raise $100 to meet the goal. Need I remind you, any rich folks out there listening, there were folks in your class paying $180 for a plate of nachos. And by the way, it was just chips and cheese. There wasn't even any lobster or anything on the caviar. You would think $180 for nachos. So when I think of the world in those terms, one, I think the $100 is hopefully something that we could maybe, somebody could help out with. So just get us there. But two, oh man, do I hate people who spend $180 for nachos. Yep, those are the two takeaways. I just hate those people. Just hate them. All right, so thank you to April. April, you changed my mood. I was very depressed. I was very depressed this morning, and then I saw that you tipped today. So thank you. I was like, man, a pledge week where like we didn't raise anything on that day. And then April, she's the croniest of our friends. I need a drink because before we get into the quarters, I want to talk a little bit about something that just happened. I'm going to go all Gen X on you right now. It just happened this morning, like 25 minutes ago. And well, at this point now, it's probably like 45 minutes ago. And it really upset me. It is breaking news. It probably won't be reported. CNN ain't going to interrupt their Trump trial coverage for it or anything like that. But it's a significant and shocking piece of news to a lot of people of a certain generation, and certainly to fans of a certain kind of music. And that is the sudden passing of Steve Albini, the super producer. And personally, for me, as somebody who worked with bands in the Chicago scene, who knew a lot of those people. I didn't know Steve. I had never met Steve. Steve was like on a different level. When Steve came into the room, it was like people didn't, he was an important guy. And I was just a morning show producer, so, but, he's probably most famous for taking over the production duties for Nirvana after Nevermind. Butch Vig, of course, famously did Nevermind. And Nevermind is considered the greatest album of all time. So there's no shame there. But for some reason, Nirvana looked somewhere else. And they looked to Steve Albini. They found him because Steve Albini. Well, here, let me I'll run through these. I mean, I can give you the ones off the top of my head, but to truly appreciate the kind of contribution that this dude made to an entire genre of music, you gotta let me read off a complete list of bands who, and you don't want to take credit away from the band, but these bands themselves would say that our sound, that sound that we got, that thing that connected with you, that thing that was so original, unique, and so important that defined this very genre of music. Yeah, that was Steve. I mean, they'll say that. I'm going to play a clip for you of some YouTube video that I saw of him and Dave Grohl and Conan O'Brien and Chris Novoselic sitting around talking about the making of In Utero and why they went from Butch Vig to Steve Albini, who, by the way, those two guys, Butch Vig and Steve Albini, in that era, it was like, which Coke or Pepsi. It was, and there was kind of a war of nah, man, I'm more of a Steve Albini guy. No, man, I'm more of Butch Vig, that kind of thing. When in reality, Butch Vig and Steve Albini were like really close. They were buddies. They were friends. There was nothing but serious admiration between the two of them. Whatever. They both did okay. Here, let me give you some of the bands that he's worked with. Okay. Most prominent of Albini's artists that he worked with: Nirvana, the Pixies, the Breeders, Godspeed You, Black Emperor, the Jesus Lizard, PJ Harvey, Joanna Newsom, Superchunk, Low, Dirty Three, Jawbreaker, Neurosis, Cloud Nothings, Bush, Chevelle, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant, just to name some of the few. Oh, and it goes on: Helmet, Fred Schneider, the Stooges, Manic Street Preachers, the Flesh Tones, the Frames, the Membranes, Cheap Trick, Veruca Salt. I mean, he was just, there's an entire kind of music that came out of this dude, this weird little man. I don't know if he's little. Hey, also Byron, I think he was a hell of a poker player. I think he kind of became kind of a regular on the poker tables, Steve Albini. Anyway, I'll have more later, but actually, should we just do it now? let me show you this. I'm gonna show you a little cool ass piece of audio. Actually, it's video, so we can sit and we can watch it, and you'll get an idea of who Steve Albini was, because he wasn't. I think the reason that maybe he won't be covered by CNN or anything like that is he was a man of principles, and his principles, true artist, that whole thing, that whole attitude, that probably cost him hundreds of millions of dollars. And here, I want to play something for you. This is Steve Albini talking about that situation, how Nirvana came to him, and his deal. This is what was so interesting. His deal with Nirvana. Oh crap! Hold on, now I can't find it. Yikes! Well, isn't that just a kick in the balls? Hold on. Nah, I got it. It's right here. Don't worry. Let me just find it. Yeah, all right, here we go. Talking about the sudden passing this morning of Steve Albini at 61 years old. All right, here. Yeah, I just want to watch this. We'll watch this, and then we'll move on. But Steve Albini was a pretty important dude in Gen X music. Certainly more than that. I'm just trying to frame it through my own lens. Here we go. This is an interview that Conan O'Brien did with the members of Nirvana and Steve Albini, who died today suddenly at 61 years old of a heart attack.
At time, we've, Nevermind is out. They're the biggest band in the world. They're looking to make their follow-up album. At that time, were you a fan? Were you a fan of Nirvana?
I wasn't super familiar with Nirvana. I had heard like the ubiquitous stuff that was being played on the radio and all the clubs, and like every gig you would go to, as you were loading in, the sound guy would put Nevermind on to crank the PA and balance the PA. So I had heard the album many times, sort of secondhand, right? I wasn't a student of Nirvana. I was familiar with their circle, like all the other bands in Seattle that they were like, compadres with, like the Melvins and the Mudhoney and all those other bands. I knew those bands and I was familiar with the sound, but I couldn't admit to being a fan. I became a fan of Nirvana through the process of working with them and seeing them in action firsthand, because I'd never seen them play live. If I'd ever seen them play live, I'm certain I would have become a fan.
What's amazing is, so the decision is made. We would like Steve Albini to produce this record. And most people, I think anyone else on the planet in that position would have said, please, 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 please. And you write this letter when you find out that they're interested. And this letter is not a please hire me letter. It's a great letter. But it is a I'll do it, but here are my conditions letter, which is first of all, this is
sounds
a
like that
compliment.
Ethereum thing.
Yeah.
Bit,
it is. I mean, it really is a it is it's a bit of a screed about what you believe, and I will do this if you do it on my terms and if you're willing to do it. And then you shockingly say, I'm not taking points on this record. I don't want to do that. You said, I want to be paid like a plumber. Just give me some money up front. But you thought it was immoral to get points in the record.
Yeah, I mean, the way that record producers and recording people are compensated at that time in particular was a trick of accounting that shifted the cost away from the label and toward the band, made the band ultimately responsible for whatever the producer got paid. And it didn't come out of the general proceeds of the record the way it would in an independent label's contract, for example. It came specifically out of the money that would otherwise have gone to the band. Like literally every dollar I would get paid would mean that was a dollar that Dave didn't get, or Chris didn't get, or Kurt didn't get. I mean, that's just the way the accounting works in those kinds of deals. And I think that's ethically untenable. I'll admit that I think less of people who opt to do things that way. I think it's on its face, it's absurd. Like I work on a record for a few days, and then for the rest of your fucking life, you have to keep paying me. Like you give me a chip off of every nickel that you earn.
I'd like you to talk to my agent and my manager, if you would. If you could convert them to that.
All right, there you have it. That's the great Steve Albini. He's one of them dudes, man. Principled, talented, just difficult dude, real difficult guy. Like I said, I never met him. He was kind of like a superstar in the local Chicago rock scene. You never saw. First of all, I don't think he was ever anywhere because his reputation. He wasn't a club guy. Like he didn't go to clubs. He didn't see bands live. He was a studio rat. He had two bands himself, Big Black and Shellac. They were both fairly popular Chicago bands. Shellac sort of was came years after Big Black, but Shellac I think had a little more popularity. But I talk a lot about my friend Doc, who was my first co-producer. Co-producer. I was basically his junior producer. He was there. He was a man. He was older than me. He was about 15 years older than me, but he was this is in radio, my first morning show job. Doc is no longer with us either of a heart attack. Doc was, in addition to being the sidekick, and think Big Al Mack, if you're familiar with Dallas, the Dallas radio scene. He was Big Al Mack. He was Big Al Mack. That's Kelly and I were like, yeah, that's Big Al Mack is Doc. That's what they've got, something, the same kind of thing in every market. Anyway, Doc was like one of my best friends, and his like other thing that he was known for, because he was known for something else before he got into radio, was being a sound guy. He was the best live sound guy in Chicago. And all the bands wanted Doc. So Doc knew Steve, and Doc and Steve had worked together a whole bunch of times. And they did not like each other. Or I don't know if they like each other. I don't know what Steve thought of Doc. But Doc, man, I'm telling you what, I'm a grown man. Pugs, you would not believe, I'm doing my Doc impression. Pugs, you would not believe how this grown man speaks to other grown men. Anybody who knows Doc appreciates that. You a grown man. Anyway, he was a tyrant, Steve Albini. Tyrant in the studio. But also very, very talent friendly. Like they loved him. Like the band, not a diva, like, bands are divas, but just like a perfectionist. And he used to love to explain that, yeah, I'm good. I'm good because I'm cheap and I'm fast. And that kind of became the magic of his sound, why his stuff sounded so different, because every other producer wasn't working cheap and wasn't working fast, because every other producer was, working for a big record company. And he was like, making a bunch of albums by dudes who were pulling bartending shifts when they weren't playing in their band, right? And it was like by the hour, and it was quick, and he got that sound, and he didn't have the best equipment. And lo and behold, there's a whole new genre of music based on this garagey, clinky, stripped down recording sound. And Butch Vig, very much part of that too. Butch Vig, very, very important as well. But Steve Albini is right there in those group of people. Steve Albini died today at 61 years of age. Once again, I'll read off a list of some of the bands that he's associated himself with over the years: Nirvana, the Pixies, the Breeders, Godspeed You, Black Emperor, the Jesus Lizard, PJ Harvey, Superchunk, Low, Dirty Three, Jawbreaker, Bush, Chevelle, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, Helmet, Fred Schneider, the Stooges, the Manic Street Preachers, Veruca Salt, the Frames, Cheap Trick. There's a whole bunch more. Dude, Foxy Shazam. There you go. I think Adam mentioned Foxy Shazam. Foxy Shazam is also mentioned. And he was here's the real kicker in the nuts about Steve Albini dying. And in this weird, and it's probably going to be great for, anybody else who's got interest in this. But Shellac is releasing a new album, and they were going to play some gigs and stuff. They got a new album that's coming out next week or something. The new Shellac album. And there's a lot of people that dug Shellac. I bet it's going to be bigger now. Posthumous. It's going to get those posthumous sales or listens or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, Steve Albini, dead at 61. One of the great behind the scenes music influencers and creators, producers for sure. And players. His bands were real influential as well. Steve Albini, dead at 61 years of age. All right. That's it. I just wanted to get on that because it was top of mind. I was already texting with a bunch of friends today. What do you know? What did you hear? I didn't hear, that's me. I'm asking them because they're in Chicago and still working in music and bands. Anyway, it's a very shocking story. All right, let's get started. Let's do the high noon rant the way it's supposed to do when we aren't interrupted so inconveniently by things like death. Tell you, it comes at you quick, right? In that way, what is it? It's life comes at you fast, but death comes quicker. That's right. For some reason, I love that. I thought that sounded cool. Special thank you to April, who changed my mood today. When I woke up this morning, I thought that the number amount that we needed to raise by end of show today was insurmountable. It was 150, and now it's surmountable. So thank you to April, our executive producer of the show. We need to raise $100 today. If anybody can help, pass the word along. Find your rich friends. All right, let's get started here. Let's talk about, we'll put that up. Let's go. It is, May the 8th. Give me a second. Google Drive. I use Google Drive, and I just don't have a way to maneuver around it quickly, so I have to just go one line at a time. It is the 8th day of the beautiful month of May, year of our Lord 2024. It is the 129th day, because of leap year. There's 237 more days until the end of the year. Let's get started with quarter one. We call this antecedently on this day, but you may know it as Today in History. Antecedently on this day in 1877 at Gilmore's Gardens in New York City, the very first Westminster Kennel Club dog show premieres. Okay, so I love Best in Show. I don't know if you guys know Best in Show. It's a movie. It's one of those this Chris Guest movies or mockumentaries, I guess is the genre. So Best in Show, love Best in Show, love dogs. And have found myself watching the Westminster Dog Show. But here's the thing I don't know about the Westminster Dog Show, which was first held on this day in 1877. What is it? If you told me the Westminster Dog Show was yearly, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds right. And that does sound right, yearly. But if you also told me, oh, the Westminster Dog Show is held every 3 months, I'd be like, yeah, it seems like that, right? Seems like there's always... Anyway, I don't know when it's held. Apparently, the first one was held this time of year, so maybe it's coming. I have no idea. Something war or COVID related may have changed it, right? It's been held in the month of May, every May, since the year 1877 until World War II. And then World War II will always screw something up. But now it's like until the pandemic year. And that's, I don't know when the Westminster Dog Show is. It seems like it's always just a couple of months away. All right. On this day in 1970, antecedently, the Beatles released their 12th and final studio album, Let It Be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Fun fact about Let It Be. Let It Be was not the final Beatles album. Sorry, it wasn't. Nope. It was the last released Beatles album. But if you're somebody who is interested in watching the growth of a band, Let It Be is not the last one you listen to. Abbey Road. Abbey Road is the last album that the Beatles recorded together. They had already recorded Let It Be. They were just like, whatever. And they didn't know what to do with it. So they thought they were going to have other stuff. They thought they were going to work, they thought, we'll put that aside. We're loving this Abbey Road stuff. So they recorded Abbey Road, and then they went, this is good. And they said, is it better than Let It Be? Because remember, they had Let It Be. So they obviously said, yeah, this is it. This is the End of the Road album. And that's Abbey Road. And then Let It Be came out. And, the song Let It Be, I'm not going to kid anybody. It sounds like it's tailor-made for the situation, but it wasn't. It wasn't. That song's not about the Beatles breaking up, although everybody thinks it is. But anyway, just leave it alone. Antecedently, on this day in 1980, the World Health Organization confirms the eradication of smallpox. Take that, smallpox! Score 1 for science. Or just humans. I don't know. Smallpox was winning, though. Smallpox, had some good early rounds. And then, they let people start reading. Didn't think it was witchcraft anymore. And then all of a sudden, look at that. No more smallpox. Antecedently on this date in 1984, Corporal Dennis Lortie enters the Quebec National Assembly and opens fire, killing 3 people and wounding 13. René Jabert, who is the Sergeant at the arms of the assembly, succeeds in calming him, for which he will later receive the Cross of Valor. Calming him. A dude in 1984 walked into the Quebec National Assembly, their state house. Dude in 1984 walks into the Quebec National Assembly, kills 3 people. Bam, bam, bam. How many other did he wound? Wounding 13 more. Bam, 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 bam. I don't know if that was 13. And he was calmed by a security guard. What the non-American bullshit is that? Well, I need this guy dead. This guy, well, do we want him dead, or do we eventually kill him, right? But do we want a story? Like, do we take him and get his story, or do we not care about his story? They calmed him. That's what the Canadians did. They calmed this guy. That's what it's, Sergeant at Arms of the Assembly succeeds in calming him, for which he will later receive the cross. Oh, is there like a link for that? René Jabin. All right, let's see what René Jabin. Let's see what the description is of this. René Jabin. René Marc Jabin is a retired Canadian, or was a retired, he's dead, Canadian Forces officer and Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly of Quebec, known for his role in ending Dennis Lortie's killing spree in the Parliament building. Let's see. In a rare display of cool-headedness and courage, René Jabin, Sergeant at the Arms of Quebec National Assembly, subdued a man who had killed 3 people and wounded 13 more on the morning of the 8th of May, 1984. The man had entered a side door of the National Assembly building and immediately opened fire with a submachine gun. Moments later, he climbed the main staircase towards the assembly, known as the Blue Room, shooting repeatedly, and then burst into the chamber. As bullets peppered the wall, Monsieur Jabin entered the Blue Room and with icy calm, all right, so here's what happened. So at this point, Monsieur Jabin shows up and with icy calm convinced the man to allow several employees to leave the premises. Then he invited the heavily armed man into his downstairs office, in effect, setting himself up as hostage while removing the man from the scene at extreme personal risk. But with unflinching authority, Monsieur Jabin spent 4 hours persuading the man to surrender to police. The audacity of this retired major of the Royal 22nd Regiment, a Second World War and Korean War veteran, almost certainly prevented a higher death toll. I gotta tell you, I didn't know that. That's fucking amazing. Huh? I mean, he could have just killed him, right? I mean, he could have just, sounds like there was ample opportunity to justifiably put a bullet in this madman's head. But instead, them Canadians, they're just, hey, so what's wrong, eh? So what's going on with you, eh? Like what was that? That is ballsy, man. All right, you know what? I started out not mocking, but wondering what kind of crazy situation that. And I'm actually moved by that. That's a dude who like took control. He should be a hostage negotiator. He should be one of those guys who talks people off of jumping off a building. Antecedently on this day in 1984, same day that this is happening in Quebec, story about Quebec, guy walks in, kills people. That same day, on this day, the USSR announces a boycott of the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. It was later joined by 14 other countries. Yeah, 14 other Soviet countries, Yeah, I remember this. But this was, we didn't go in 80. And, this was really kind of sucky for us little Gen X kids, because us Gen X kids, we were raised with the idea that Russia was the bad guy, and it was like they're the enemy, and we didn't really have war, thankfully, but we had sports, and like sports became incredibly important after the U.S. hockey team won. When the U.S. hockey team won the gold medal, by the way, they didn't even beat Russia, but whatever, or Soviet Union, we beat them in an earlier round. But when the U.S. hockey team won, America suddenly went, oh, we're better in sports than the Russians. We just that became a thing. And then you can imagine, because they weren't staggered the way they are now. It was in the winter, you'd have the Winter Olympics, and then that very summer, you'd have the summer. So the 1980 Summer Olympics, which were being held in, was that Moscow? Yeah, in Moscow. We refused to send our team. So coming off the Olympic hockey, we're all like, yeah, now let's kick their ass in gymnast stuff. We were all very excited. And then they shut that down. So we were like, fuck, that sucks. It was okay. And then the next 4 years, because you got to wait 4 years anyway. The next 4 years, it's good for us. The Cold War was still going strong. 4 years later, the Russians, they won't send their people here. So it was like 8 years. It was like an entire decade, basically, where, all we had was us beating them in hockey. That's why it means so much to us. I think I've just stumbled across something. I think I've cracked the code of why a meaningless hockey game that nobody should have cared about suddenly became, this part of the American fabric. Hey, April. It's April. It's our executive producer. Thank you, April. We're calling you still friends. Let's see. What else do we have here? That's going to do it. That's going to do it for quarter one, antecedently on this day. Let's move forward now into birthdays. They say it's the birthday. I have no shame. Born on this day, we're going to decide if they're cool or not. David Attenborough. Sir David Attenborough, born on this day in 1926. Here's why he's interesting to me, and here's why I mention him. Because there's a Sir David Attenborough, and there's also a Sir Richard Attenborough. There's two Attenboroughs, and Attenborough's not a very common name, so I assume they're brothers. Turns out they are. Turns out they're brothers. But who is who? Because I think I've heard Sir Richard Attenborough mentioned probably as much as I've heard Sir David Attenborough mentioned like this. So they're all, I don't know which is which. Here's what I do know. One is like the Marlon Perkins of Europe. What do I mean by that? Who's Marlon Perkins? All right. One is like Steve Irwin. I feel like he didn't do this. Okay, one's an environmentalist guy who makes documentary films and is like a British BBC TV star for going, this is the world. And then, doing he's that guy. He's like science guy, but makes these great documentary films about the environment. That is David Attenborough. That's our birthday guy. His brother, his older brother, is the director, Sir Richard Attenborough. The older brother, only by 3 years, but the older brother, Sir Richard, and they're both still alive. These friggin' Attenboroughs are like cockroaches. They're both still alive. The brother did Gandhi, right? No, not bad. The brother did Chaplin. The movie Chaplin. That was really good. What else is? It doesn't matter. Sir Richard Attenborough did a whole bunch of fancy films. Half of them I didn't see because they're fancy British films that only people who are dishonest about what they actually claim to like. All right. Happy birthday, David Attenborough, the environmentalist. That's whose birthday it is today. Richard's dead? Oh my God. Hugh is telling me that Sir Richard is dead. Thought they were both alive. Thanks for bringing a little light to this party, Hugh, my old friend Hugh. Let's see here. Who else do we have in birthdays? Don Rickles, 1926. Don Rickles. My son just became aware of Don Rickles. Doesn't have any respect for him at all. Like, and not because Don Rickles is an insult comic, just because he's old. But my son, we watched Casino. I told you this. I mean, my son, we're going through the Scorsese thing. My son is 14, gonna be 15 on Saturday. Boy. So we're watching Casino, and of course, Don Rickles plays a dude. He plays one of the casino he plays the casino manager that Robert De Niro hires to, like, sort of work the floor. And I was like, my son is like, that's a stupid name, because my kid was just making fun of everything about the movie, because that's what he likes to do. That's how I get him to watch a movie. He riffs on it for like the first 20 minutes until he realizes, hold on, wait a second, this is pretty good. And then he'll shut up and actually watch the movie. So when the credits are going on, he's riffing. He's riffing on Don Rickles. He's like, Don Pickles, Dick Pickles. Dick Pickles is in this. And I have to stop him. I'm like, dude, show some respect. That's Don Rickles. He goes, Dick Pickles. He's doing that. He's being a 14-year-old. And I'm like, you have no idea. He is one of the most highly regarded comedians. And then I'm like, and then I stopped. I'm like, what am I doing here? Anyway, Don Rickles, happy birthday. Born on this day. You can't. Look, if I'm going to have that fight, I'm going to have that fight with my kid over like a Bill Hicks when I try to introduce him to Bill Hicks. I'm not going to waste those bullets on Don Rickles. I'm sorry, Don. You were fun, but maybe you're just two generations removed from relevance on any level. Happy birthday. Born on this day in 1940, Ricky Nelson. He was Ozzie and Harriet Nelson. And it's, again, I'm not that old. I'm not Ozzie and Harriet old. Okay. Ozzie and Harriet was a TV show that, your moms and grandmas probably liked. Ricky Nelson was their kid. And because, nepotism goes way back, what do they call it? Nepo babies. That's what he was. Ricky Nelson was a Nepo baby. Now he died. Oh, who's his dad? Oh, his dad is Ozzie. Oh my God, the Nelson family Nepo tree. That's what we're gonna do now. So his dad was Ozzie. I think his grandpa was like British Admiral Horatio or something. I don't know. No. But he came from something. So Ozzie Nelson was a big TV star. He had Ricky Nelson. Ricky Nelson was a big TV star and then a recording star in the 70s and stuff. And then he had a bunch of kids. He had Tracy Nelson, who was on Square Pegs, who I always kind of had a thing for, and I didn't understand it. And then he had Gunnar and Matthew. Yeah! Nelson! Remember the band Nelson? Okay, that's Ricky Nelson's kids. There you go, Ricky Nelson. It's his birthday. What was the Nelson song? Nelson had a song. I thought they were albinos, honestly, truly, in the beginning. I'm like, oh, cool. It's like 1990. I'm like, oh. Awesome. Albinos getting work. I thought they were albinos. Turns out they were just like blonde and Nordic and pale. What was their song though? I bet you Nelson had a banger. I bet you, I haven't heard it in 40 years, but I bet you if I heard whatever song Nelson had that made them famous for like a cup of coffee, I bet if I heard that right now, I'd go, yeah, you know what? This song ain't bad. I find myself, I do that a lot with music that I shunned when I was younger. And now I'm just, I'm too old for the bullshit. We get too old for the bullshit. Moving on. Happy birthday, born on this day in 1940, Tony Tennille, one half of the Captain and Tennille. I don't know what they were. I don't know if were they real? Were they seriously Captain and Tennille? If you were like me and you were 5 years old and you just got out of your bath, you're in your PJs with your footies and they sit you down in front of the TV and it's Wednesday night at 9:00. Chances are you're watching Captain and Tennille or Shields and Yarnell or Donnie and Marie. What I'm saying is there were a lot of these rando. So Captain and Tennille had a bunch of pop hits, not bad ones either, pretty good ones, you sing along stuff, bopping stuff. But then they were also on TV and then it turns out that like Daryl Dragon, who was the captain. Daryl, yeah, that's right. That's how deep I go on Daryl and Tennille, Captain and Tennille. He was like a studio guy, and she was a studio singer. I don't know how that all happened, but all of a sudden, like in the blink of an eye, the Captain and Tennille are huge, and they're everywhere. They're on the radio, they're on your TV, they're in commercials. Captain and Tennille, and they had like kind of a Penn and Teller thing going on, right? Like Captain didn't say much, or if anything at all, wasn't he kind of silent? And then Tony Tennille, she was like the whole ball of wax. That's basically what they were. It was Tony Tennille and her suitcase pimp. That's what it should have been called. All right, moving on. Happy birthday, Tony Tennille, born on this day in 1940. I'm sure Daryl Dragon did more as the captain. And call him the captain for anything. Or nothing. Born on this day in 1951. How about Chris France? Chris France. You know, I skipped over somebody. You know, I skipped over Gary Glitter because fuck him, he's a pedophile. Like when I originally like put Gary Glitter, born on this day in 1944, I was like, yeah, put him in there. And then I got to it and I was like, fuck it, skip over it. And now I did skip over it, and now I feel like I'm explaining it too much, and why not just talk about it? All right, Gary Glitter, born on this day in 1944. So here's my question. They don't play that at sporting events anymore, do they? Gary Glitter is a 70s Brit glam rock dude who, as it turns out, is an incorrigible pedophile. The Thailand kid, just all the bad stuff. He went to jail for it. But when he went to jail for it, like every arena in the country for like 20 years before he went to jail was playing his music every night. What's it called? Rock and Roll Part 2 or something. You know, every you know that they don't play that anymore, right? Like you can't play that anymore, can they? Do they? I don't know. I don't think I've ever noticed, and I think this is why I don't think they play it anymore. I feel like I would have noticed. I feel like if I was at a stadium in the last 15 years since Gary Glitter went through his stuff, I feel like if I was in a stadium and they played that song, I'd go, "That's inappropriate," and I'd make a mental note of it. But I don't remember ever having done that. Al would like to chime in, talking a little bit about Daryl Dragon, of course, the captain of Captain and Tennille. Daryl Dragon was a keyboardist for the Beach Boys. There you go. Yeah, he was a studio guy. He was like a traveling. He played with everybody. He did everything. Kevin says Captain and Tennille Bionic Watermelon skit was height of first grade comedy. You are damn right. Bionic Watermelon. Holy shit. That's right. That was like the breakout sketch from the Captain and Tennille show. The Bionic Watermelon. It was a parody of the $6 Million Man. It was a parody of the Bionic Man, except it was a watermelon that fell out of the back of a watermelon truck on the road, and it broke into pieces, as watermelons are wont to do. But they could rebuild him. They could put together. It was a bionic watermelon. And Kevin's right. It was hysterical at 7 years old. Hysterical. Jeff says, I don't see why they wouldn't play it. Michael Jackson is still on radios. Yeah, you can't have my Michael. Sorry. Fucking hands off, dude. Back off. Of course, that's what the parents of those kids should have said. But no, I'm saying that to people trying to take my Michael Jackson away. I don't believe it. Or maybe I do. It doesn't matter. When I'm enjoying Michael Jackson, I'm typically a little bit tipsy, and I want to hear it, and I want to play it, and I want to sing along. And you know what? Screw you. Separate the art from the artist. That's me. That's me about Michael Jackson. Gary Glitter, though, I don't know. That dude didn't mean anything to me. That dude was just, he made one song. The only song we know from him is a song that we've heard at stadiums. It's not like he had hits on the radio. Screw you, Gary Glitter. Whereas Michael Jackson is a goddamn icon. Michael Jackson's a little bit more difficult for us to separate. I mean, he is ingrained into the American popular culture. He's Michael freaking Jackson. He's Elvis. He's Sinatra. He's one of them guys. And unfortunately, there may be stuff about him that I don't really want to know or think about. Moving on. Happy birthday to Chris France. Born on this day in 1951. He is, of course, the drummer of the Talking Heads. Talking Heads. Very overrated band. Whoa! What did Pugs just say? I think they're a little overrated. I think they're a little self-indulgent. I don't think that they care that I say this because I don't believe that the Talking Heads make music for people like me or really people like you. Maybe they make music for the kind of people you wish you could be. That's why half the Talking Heads fans are posers. Oh, I love this. Oh, this is fantastic. I will say this. The film Stop Making Sense is very good. It's very interesting. And by the way, that film is why I believe all this stuff about them. That I put. It's just weird. It's just weird because, some people of my generation watched that film and went, they're the coolest things ever. And then other people of my generation watched that film and went, oh, they're insufferable. Could you imagine being stuck in an elevator with one of the Talking Heads? Anyway, Chris France is having a birthday today. Happy birthday to him. He's the drummer. So he's probably the coolest of them all. Born on this day in 1958, just personal happy birthday to the wonderful Lovie Smith. His name says it all. Lovie Smith, NFL football coach. I don't want to go into it. Here's what we say about Lovie Smith in Chicago. Build the statue, set it atop the bean, and place it at the entrance of Wrigley Field. That's how we feel about Lovie Smith in Chicago Bear Nation. What that guy did for us. He's the reason that the Chicago Bears have been able to completely rebuild. He was the coach. He was the interim coach down there in Houston. And Houston was on their way to getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft, the NFL draft. Houston, the Bears, we were in second place. We were tanking. We were like an absolute garbage team. We were tanking. We knew that we were rebuilding. So we were tanking. But Houston, they were in a bad shape as well. Final game of the year. Lovie Smith on the sidelines. It's already been announced that Lovie Smith's going to be fired. Lovie Smith is not going to be renewed as the head coach of the Texans. This is his last game. Indianapolis. They throw a Hail Mary in the closing seconds of the game. Actually, I don't want to screw up what the actual details are. They went for 2, and then he decided to go for 2. So anyway, they threw a Hail Mary touchdown in the closing seconds of the game to tie a game. Where if they had just lost the game, they get the number 1 pick in the draft, but they didn't. They went down, and then they went for 2. And Lovie's like, we're going for 2. Lovie was going for the win. And they did it. The Houston Texans won the game, and at the very same time, lost the number 1 overall pick in the draft to the Chicago Bears, which the Chicago Bears then traded to the Carolina Panthers, and just, we saw the rewards of that this year. So thank you to Lovie Smith for going for 2. You took us to our last Super Bowl. We'll never forget that. We love you for that. But then you went for 2, you son of a bitch, and you did it. Thank you, Lovie Smith. Fort Worth boy. He was born just outside Fort Worth. Born on this day in 1958. Born on this day in 1964, Melissa Gilbert. She's an American actress. Melissa Gilbert. Which one was she? She wasn't the blind or deaf one. Oh, God, my Little House on the Prairie is so sketchy. Seriously, I like only here. Okay, shows from my childhood that I probably should have watched, but I have no real remembrance of, other than the sketchiest of details. Little House on the Prairie, The Waltons, and Barnaby Jones. Those are 3 shows that I know existed, and I know they were popular, but I tuned them out as a kid. I was busy watching the Bionic Watermelon on the Captain and Tennille Variety Hour. Melissa Gilbert was on Little House on the Prairie. She wasn't the blind one, right? Was she Half Pint? I remember that name because I always thought that was a good nickname. That's a good nickname. Half Pint. Anyway, Melissa Gilbert. Born on this day in 1960. Her sister was from Roseanne, right? That's her sister. The daughter from Roseanne. Sarah Gilbert? Is that her? I think that is. Happy birthday, Melissa Gilbert. Wait a second. It's all starting to come back to me now about Melissa Gilbert. Wasn't she kind of a bad hottie in like the early 80s? Wasn't she like running around with like a young Rob Lowe and a young Tom Cruise? Wasn't she like tangentially associated with the Brat Pack? I think she was. I think she kind of was. I think she was with Rob Lowe for a while. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, Melissa Gilbert, happy birthday. Born on this day in 1964. That's it. We're done. There are just no more interesting birthdays on this day after Melissa Gilbert in 1964. It just like drops off. It's like an entire generation, the entirety of Gen X and millennials have contributed nothing. None of them are, no famous people born on this day. Let's do the deads. This is quarter 3. This is where we look for people who have died on this day. These are the people who've died. These are the people who've died. We open up their life's resume and decide whether or not they went to heaven or hell. Dead on this day in 1982, a guy who's absolutely in hell, but oh my God, he's another fun story. Neil Bogart. Neil Bogart, he was, isn't this, hold on. Is he? No, that's John Casablancas. That's Neil Bogart. Who was Neil Bogart? He was, let me see here. Neil E. Bogart was an American record executive. He was the founder of Casablanca Record. Well, okay, I thought that was, no, that's Casablanca's modeling agency. That's why I always get them confused. You know what? Maybe Neil Bogart ain't that interesting. Maybe it's John Casablancas of Casablanca's Models that's interesting, who's also the father of the dude in the Strokes. Anyway, Neil Bogart, I don't care. Never mind. He's going to hell. I realized at the last minute that I might have this guy confused with somebody else. Neil Bogart is still an important personality in the music business, Casablanca Records and whatnot, cocaine stuff. There was a lot of cocaine stuff. Now it's coming back. There's a documentary about him. There is a documentary about him now that I think about it. I think I saw it, about how he had a offshore recording studio where he was also like bringing in cocaine. I don't know. I don't want to shame the man. I also think there's a movie about him, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, we're still putting him in hell because he was in the music business in the 1970s. And quite frankly, I think you know what that means. Dead on this day in 1985. Dolph Sweet. Dolph Sweet. Does that name ring a bell? I bet it does when I show him to you. Hold on. I'm going to show him to you. Don't look him up. Don't ruin this moment. We're having a moment here. And you're going to like jump over and go, I want to see it before. We'll all experience it together. Ugh. Did I even have to tell you people? What up, bam? Dolph Sweet, man. I'll give you a hint. Seemingly one of the most forgettable TV dads in the history of TV daddom. Here you go. All right, so this is Dolph Sweet. He died on this day. I'm gonna put him in heaven, just so you know. I'm putting him in heaven, Dolph Sweet, because he is the most forgettable TV dad in history. Yet on a show that we all remember, give me a break. Give me a break. Remember, he was like Chief Kowalski or something, Chief Kanicki Kowalski, whatever his name was. Who hired the sassy black maid, Nell Carter, who just, all she wanted was just for someone to give me a break. That's Dolph Sweet. Totally forgettable though, right? I'm not wrong about that. He's like totally forgettable. like if you were to say, picture the dad from Give Me a Break. By the way, I have to say it that way. I don't know. Now we're on a thing. I can't not say it that way. Give me a break. There he is. Look at him. There he is. Chief. We'll call him Kowalski, maybe. Did anybody from this show go on to do anything? Give me a break. See some pictures. See some okay. Oh man, is this picture even big enough? I don't know if this is big enough. Nah, it's not. We're going the wrong way. All right. So you got the chief right here. This was Chief Kowalski, right? That's him, bottom right. Then you got Nell. Think there was something going on? There was. I bet you if you checked under the mattress of old Chief, you'd find like back issues of Black Jugs magazine. He was into a type, and that's why he hired Nell. And then he had 3 daughters. What happened? What happened? Mom died tragically, because that was back then. You couldn't have the woman leave the house for divorce, because that would be bad. So all women, all moms, any movie or a TV show that was based around like a single dad raising his kid, it can't be because of divorce. It's got to be because she died tragically. And it's always tragically. Trauma, they're dealing with that. All right, so you got 3 daughters. You got the smart one, you got the slutty one, and then you had the lesbian. Those were the 3 Give Me a Break daughters. And not a single one of them went on to appear in anything else ever again, anytime. Give me a break. Dolph Sweet. Dead on this day. Let's pour one out for Dolph Sweet. What are we going with here? Chief Kanicki? Chief Kowalski? Something like that? Who knows? I'm sure the chat room. Let's see here. Who else? Who else do we have? Dead on this day in 1994. Oh, George Papard. Oh, George Papard. He was no, he wasn't Face. What was his name? A-Team. I should know this. I'm getting old. This is what happens when you get old. He was the star of the A-Team, and for I don't know, 15 years of my life, I made no distinction between George Papard and Leslie Nielsen. They were the same person to me. Think about it. Think about it. If you're like 15 and like anyone with gray hair is just immediately you tune them out, except, one is a hero from A-Team, so you pay a little attention to him. And the other one is just balls funny in the Naked Gun movie, so you pay a little attention to him. But you don't really pay attention to anybody else, so they're just two guys and you can't tell them apart. And that's where I was with George Papard and Leslie Nielsen for about 15 years of my life. I can tell them apart now. Like if you tested me, like if you threw up flashcards and you're like, who's this? I'd be like, Papard. That's fun to say. Papard. George Papard, born on this day, 1994. He's going to heaven. There ain't nobody associated with the A-Team that ain't going to heaven. That show came along right at a time when I needed. There was no one on TV that I could relate to. And then, these 5 men, one of them mentally disturbed, rolling around the country in the back of a conversion van. That appealed to me in my young free spirit. And I saw myself in no one from the A-Team will ever go to hell. George Papard goes to heaven. Not the movie, not the stupid, there was a movie, right? Like Quentin Jackson played. I never saw the movie. Would never see the movie. I'm an A-Team classic. I'm an A-Team classic guy. George Papard. Dead on this day in 1999. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you I'm putting her in heaven. I'm telling you I'm going to put her in heaven because tortured souls deserve our compassion. And especially ones that were so routinely mocked and teased and picked on when they were alive. There's got to be some reward for that. Otherwise, what the hell? Then there is no God. Fine, okay. There's no reward for that. Dana Plato. Dana Plato is going to heaven. She died on this day in 1999. Dana Plato played Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes, which was a massive TV show. I mean, it was so big. Everybody watched Different Strokes. What you talk about, Mr. Drummond? Gary Coleman like essentially only did Different Strokes. He did a couple of movies and all that, and they were big too. But really, he didn't follow it up with anything else. He didn't have like a big career as the lead in like a run of films. Like he wasn't Gary Coleman in Speed. Gary Coleman in Speed 2. He didn't really. So Gary Coleman was very famous for years and years off of that TV show. That show was big. And Dana Plato played his sister, Kimberly. And she was right. I mean, look, anybody got to complain about Kimberly Drummond during the apex years of Different Strokes? No, she was cute. She was adorable. I know to me, she was like older than me. She was an older girl. Well, whatever. I'm like 10. She's like 15. I'm like, this could work out. She was adorable. Everybody liked Kimberly. Kimberly Drummond, kind of hot, but also in an approachable way. Well, after Different Strokes ended, she couldn't really shake that character, as a lot of child stars go through this very same thing. And a lot of them go through, the death thing that she did. She OD'd in a camper. No, not a camper van. Was it a conversion van? There's something. She died in a camper in front of her mom's house, like in Nebraska. 3 days, I think it was, after doing a Howard Stern interview where she was just destroyed. She overdosed. Actually, you know what? I should. I don't remember. I remember we were on the radio and we were talking about this, and Dana Michelle Plato was an American actress, an influential teen idol of the late 70s and early 1980s. She was best known for playing the role of Kimberly Drummond. Plato was born to a teen mom and was adopted as an infant. She was raised in the San Fernando Valley. All right. Let's go to her death. Let's read the death. I know it was drugs. She was a drug addict. She lived in Vegas. She was running scams. She was kiting checks. She robbed a laundromat. You know, she was going through stuff. On May 8th, 1999, Plato and her boyfriend were returning to California and stopped at her boyfriend's mother's house. Okay, it was her mother's house in Moore, Oklahoma for a Mother's Day visit. Plato said that she felt unwell and took a few doses of hydrocodone, painkiller, along with the muscle relaxant Cariprazole, Soma, and went to lie down inside her Winnebago motorhome. Oh my God, she's Kimberly Drummond. She's rolling the country in a Winnebago, which was parked outside the house. Upon waking up, her boyfriend and the family discovered that Plato had died in her sleep at the age of 34. It was initially assumed to be an accidental overdose, but was later ruled a suicide based on Plato's long history of substance abuse. Some of Plato's friends, including her former Different Strokes co-stars Todd Bridges, who himself had kind of a crazy later teen years, have publicly disagreed with the ruling of suicide. Plato's body was cremated and her ashes were... in 2000, Fox broadcast a television movie based on Plato titled After Different Strokes, When the Laughter Okay, we don't need that. We don't need that. I'm putting her in heaven, Dana Plato, because, I don't know, seemed like she was basically always put to work as a kid, like child model, pregnant teen mom, you know, giving up for adoption. Whatever. All right, there you have it. That's the dead people. How much fun was that? That one was kind of sad. Once again, hold on. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry. I don't know. I don't know why everything seems so disjointed today. It's because of my allergies. That's what I'm going with. I'm saying this is all an allergy thing that's happening. Rob says, didn't Dana do porn? No, I don't think she did. I think it sounds like she did. Like if somebody said, did Dana, well, like you just said, didn't Dana Plano do porn? I think you'd go, yeah, probably, but I don't think so. I think you're confusing her, like, and here's the other question you got to say, Rob. So, like, what do you mean did do porn? Like, did she do porn? Like, I'm going to do a porno movie and I'm on the porno set doing a porno movie. Or was it like, did somebody release her wedding night tape? You know, like Tanya Harding, she didn't do porn. She had a tape that got leaked. I just make a distinction between that. But I don't know. I don't think she did porn. Barney says it was what would be called NC-17 now, Rob. I don't remember seeing Dana Plato do absolutely anything other than Different Strokes. I don't. All right, that's going to do it. As we said, those are the deads for today. Thank you again to April, who is today's executive producer. Thank you so much, April. $100 is the number. That's what we need to raise in tips by end of show today to continue. This show goes on for the next month, and we will. I think we can do that. I don't think that's a crazy number, but here's hoping. So help out the show if you can. You can drop a little something in the Venmo or the Cash App, and the dog is licking her vagina right now. Stop it. Stop that. Hey, stop it. I should move. No, there you go. I got a kicker. Stop it. Could you guys hear that? Oh, God, dogs are so disgusting. By the way, I watched a video. I fell down a YouTube hole yesterday. I don't know why I fell down a pranks hole on YouTube because I don't like pranks. I hate pranks. I think pranks are stupid. But for some reason, I found myself watching some really funny pranks. There was a girl who, one of the great people to prank are those who just had major oral surgery and, they're driving her home and she's like, totally open, doesn't know what's going on. So it was two brothers and they pranked their sister and she's probably about 19 years old. And the brothers are like 23 and maybe 18, whatever, you know what I mean? It's that age group. And she's all, because she just had major oral surgery. And the brothers convinced her that while she was under, that there was a virus that broke out and that the world is covered with zombies and they all got, and they were acting frantic. And she bought into it because she was, it was pretty funny. And by the way, I look at these things very skeptically. Like I was like, these are actors. I bought this. If they were acting, then they were good actors. But I bought this. And she was that's basically it. But the reason I thought about that was because the dog licking her vagine. The reason I thought of that because they said to her, we can only take one pet, and she had a dog and a cat. And they look her straight. You can only take one pet. We've only got room for one pet. And her response is, the cat, you idiot. Like, just leave the dog. She was so willing to just leave the dog. She even said, he's going to die soon anyway. And I'm just sick of him. I'm like, oh my God. Who does that? Who would choose a cat over a dog? I mean, if you got to eat one of them, the dog's going to even give you, well, I suppose the dog then is going to eat up more resources. I don't know, but I just thought that was funny. All right, let's get into today's story, shall we? Let's see if we can do this. As I mentioned at the top of the show before we got started, I'm looking at it right now because it's on my alerts. Steve Albini, storied producer and icon of the rock underground, has died at 61 years old. We already talked about him. Sorry, don't know why I had that there. What else do we have happening today? Trump trial. Okay, Trump trial. Let's talk a little Trump trial. Trump trial is not happening today, right? What, has he got to take a day off? We got hold on. I didn't see anything. I know that the Trump trial isn't happening today because CNN is actually talking about something else that they're pretending is so important. And we're so grateful and lucky that there's a break in the Trump trial just as this is happening. No, the Israeli thing's been happening for days. You've just been totally ignoring it because Trump trial. They're going to talk about Trump and condoms, and that's what I want to talk about. So last night's yesterday's Stormy Daniels testimony in the Trump hush money trial, which is happening in New York. It was, I read everything. It was not as, people are like, it was filthy and it was dirt. No, it wasn't. They talked about like two things. I think they talked about two things that could be like sexy time. And that was that she swatted him on the butt with a rolled up magazine. Like, he's like, hit me daddy kind of a thing. I don't know. There wasn't much context to it. That's why I don't know. But that was just a little piece. And then the other was that he didn't use a condom with her. Trump didn't use a condom with her. Now, he had just impregnated Melania, because if you remember, Melania was pregnant with Barton, Booger, whatever the kid's name is. The kid that's like 7 foot tall. He looks like the center on like the Ukrainian men's national team. Whoever that dude is, the kid, Trump's kid. Anyway, Melania was pregnant with him when he hooked up with Stormy Dormy at the golf outing. And so theoretically and by the way, but that Barton dude, the kid, that's him. That kid looks Trumpy. It's like, God, it's probably not, he says kid. I think you've heard that. Because, people just try to that's his kid. He looks like Trump. Stop it. I see both his mom and his dad in him. I can totally tell who the parents are there. Anyway, that's for nothing. Point is this: Trump is hooking up with a porn star in a hotel room, and he's not wearing a condom. We know his junk works because he just knocked up Melania, so we know that's all in working order. And he's having condomless sex. Donald Trump, he was a billionaire. He's having condomless sex with a porn star. Now, a couple of people, my guy Barney as well, I think he did it first, contacted me on Twitter, and they're like, well, they're the safest people to have sex with because they get tested first of all, they get tested for AIDS. That's it. That's the only thing they don't have. AIDS. Okay. I'm thinking a bit broader, and I'm even thinking they could try and get pregnant, and you're a billionaire, and they could claim anything, and you might have to pay them $250,000 just to make it go away, even if it is just a lie. It's not about HIV. Why does that's the response from everybody. Well, they get tested, they get tested for HIV. By the way, that is the only mandated testing that porn shoots in America must, adhere to. HIV testing. It's not, what do we just assume that it's all the others too, that it's gonorrhea and syphilis and VD, whatever the hell it is, herpes. No. The only thing that's mandated is the HIV. I learned that from porn friends back in the day, and I was like, what? They're like, yeah, dude, don't have sex. These are promiscuous. It's not as safe as they're leading people to believe. But that's not even my concern about why he should have worn a condom. He should have worn a condom because he's Donald Trump, a billionaire. And she's a porn star. She might be looking to get pregnant by him. Why didn't she say don't wear a condom? Because she's probably okay with whatever happens. And that's the other thing about this whole thing. Fuck, this guy still maintains that he didn't have sex with her. This guy still maintains that they just saw each other and we were friends. Oh God. Trump trial. That's my Trump trial coverage. Hope you appreciate it. If you want actual Trump trial coverage, plenty of places you can go. Radio is just filled with people. Actually, maybe not. I don't know. If there was like, liberal radio stations, then yeah, it would all be Trump trial and it'd all be, parody songs about, getting swatted on your butt and all kinds of funny stuff. But I'm wondering if like what's James Parker doing? Is he covering the Trump trial, or are they just kind of staying away from it and just going with the whole, the Justice Department is corrupt? Is that just the line? I don't know. Or are they actually going through the details like, oh my God, there's a former president on trial. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, that's how I cover it. I talk about who doesn't wear a condom with a porn star. Always wear a condom with a porn star. These are people who, sex is the industry of which they make their money, and they do a lot of it. And there are more things than just dying of HIV/AIDS to be concerned about when having sex. That's what I think anyway. But who am I? What do I know? Israel, let's talk about Israel, the situation going on over there in Israel. Ceasefire, no ceasefire. Egyptians and Qataris are working a deal and everything's going fine. And then Israel at the same time is building up on the border of Rafah. We're going to go in. Now they're in. Still ceasefire talk. And just before they go in, Hamas goes, we accept peace deal. Israel says, we did not. That's not a peace deal that we ever agreed to even be a part. So it was like that kind of thing now. Globally, the world has kind of come down now on the belief that Hamas just said that in order to make Israel look bad. Like, Israel doesn't want peace. Well, anyway. So Israel is just now going through Rafah. There's video out there. Again, if you want like Israeli war coverage, if you want the Rafah incursion covered for you, there are places you can find it. Oh, here's the news of today. Okay. So we're supposed to be sending them a whole bunch of bombs. And by we, I mean the United States of America. So we got like our big bomb pile and like, where do these ones go? They're like, these ones are going to Israel. And they're like, okay, let them up on the truck. Come on, Johnny. Beep, beep, beep. And the truck backs up to the dock. And just before they get to loading those missiles on the back of the boat, whatever. I don't know. I lost the metaphor. To send it to Israel, the State Department announces that, nope, we are freezing. We are freezing. The United States of America will not be sending any more bombs to Israel as long as this Rafah ground invasion is going on during peace negotiations. They're doing whatever they can. That's what they call it. They call it ongoing peace negotiations. You're doing whatever you can to make Anthony Blinken look like he knows what he's doing. Because Anthony Blinken, it doesn't appear, and maybe, look, who am I? Fuck do I know? I don't know what I'm looking at. All I can do is I see this guy going back and forth. I see things getting worse. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, I guess, with Kissinger in Vietnam. But those were at least, with Kissinger, it was our bodies coming back. Here with Blinken, it's just he's over there sticking his beak in. Doesn't seem to be helping. But now we're not sending bombs. Maybe that's a good thing. Okay. You know what? I'm kind of okay with that. And this does not mean, what are you, pro-Palestinian now? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what I am. But I'm certainly not going to listen to you bunch of baboons on the right and you baboons on the left telling me how I should feel about all this. It's a very complicated situation, and I will deal with it privately and in my own way. However, if you're asking me, do I have a problem with the idea that America isn't going to send any more bombs over there to help this thing continue on? Yeah, I'm good with that. I think we're good. I think Israel, I don't think you need any more bombs. Whatever you're going to do what you're going to do. But I don't think, anyway, that's happening today. The United States is holding. Let's say they're holding. We're holding on to these weapons shipments, I guess is the verbiage they're using. Here's an interesting story. This came out today. This is, I always like to point out how, and by the way, let me say first, I'm not an enemy of the media. I am not one of these people who hates on everybody who's in the media. I mean, I myself, I worked in the media. I've been a part of, newsrooms and all of those things over the years. So I just like to call out the bullshit when I see the bullshit, the over commercialization of information. That really bothers me. That this is really important information for you and we're going to have it for you. It could save your life. Back after this. And then there's a Lexus commercial and okay, the overselling, the overhyping. I've got a problem with that. I've also got a problem with the manipulation for economic gain. They do a lot of that too. An example of that is, who do we want listening? Well, Lexus is going to buy X amount of spots next month, so I think we want people who could buy a Lexus. All right, let's do information that only people who can afford who buys Lexuses? Well, here's Lexus's own internal data. It says that it's upper middle class, white, college educated people. Let's do news just for them. That I push back on that. I don't like that. And you may remember that one of my complaints about the coverage of the campuses, the college campus stuff. Remember that last week when America was burning down and there was nothing anybody could do? It was an out-of-control steamroller and they'll never be able to stop this because college campuses were on fire from coast to coast. I laid in my bed here and I heard someone on CNN say, there isn't a person on a college campus in America who should feel safe tonight. And I thought, I clutched my own pearls. I was like, what did you say? What? How? Then I realized I'm actually on the campus of SMU, a large American institution of higher learning, and there were none but crickets going on. So, the media manipulated that story. For whatever reason, they turned it into, remember Columbia? It just so happens that Columbia, which is located a short cab ride from where all these reporters are, became the epicenter of the whole thing. Columbia. Meanwhile, there are incidents occurring on other college campuses, much larger ones, more violent ones that never got covered. Why? Because it wasn't easy to get a guy out to Nebraska. It wasn't easy getting someone instantly to Madison, Wisconsin. There's only so many Ed Lavenderas for CNN to utilize here in the state of Texas. And if he's up in, if he's up in El Paso covering border stuff, he can't get to Austin to cover some. So it became Columbia. Columbia became the epicenter of it. And then, of course, by proxy, UCLA, because they all have major news divisions and stuff out there in LA as well. So that was good for them. And then, if you remember, they all went away. Poof. No more talk of this. This was the biggest story for 3-4 nights. And then poof, nothing. Oh, they must have all stopped. Everybody must have gone home. Well, that's not true either. You can just look around in the news. You'll find the stories. But they decided that this was becoming uncomfortable for them. So they didn't want to cover it anymore. So the media, my contention is this. They're not truthful, but they're not truthful for the reasons that some of you morons think. Like a bunch of you morons think they're not truthful because they're beholden to the lizard child molester people. Fuck. No. They're dishonest because they're beholden to the money. They're beholden to the advertisers and the demographics and the people who can afford to pay for shit that gets advertised. That's where the corruption is. That's where the manipulation is. So here, this comes from Axios. It's a poll that was done during the last week of this huge college campus crisis. If I were to ask you, what is the number one concern of college kids in America today, you might be led to believe, just based on coverage last week alone, that answer could only be the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Well, adding fucking close to the truth. But we were led to believe that this is a pressing issue. Pay attention to it. So here it is. I'm going to tell you what this poll was. Let's see here. Nationwide poll of college students, issues college students. Okay, so these are the issues that college students say are most important to them. Okay, this was taken between May 3rd and May 6th. Axios poll of college campuses, survey of 1,250 U.S. college students. All right. From across the country, by the way. Healthcare reform is number one. Healthcare reform is the number one. Why? Because they all know that it's no longer a corporate workforce waiting for them out there, and there's no longer a guarantee of healthcare, corporate, that nice, good, ooh, that's sucking from the corporate healthcare titty. Oh, that's so good. They know that's not there. They know that when you're hustling, you're side gigging for Uber Eats or delivering groceries, which is what their degrees are going to get them. They know that they break their ankle playing softball on the weekend. It's going to be expensive to go to the emergency room. So healthcare reform, and rightfully so. I don't know if it's number one. I think it's number one for me. It is number one for me without a doubt. But I'm a 55-year-old man going, I need some kind of comprehensive health care. I deserve this as an American. My fucking tax dollars. I see other people who pay. Anyway, moving on. The number two big issue. Because remember, we were led to believe the biggest issue among college kids is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and it's tearing our entire generation apart. Number two is educational funding and access. I don't even know what that is. 38% of college students say that is the second biggest issue that is facing or is most important to them. Number one, healthcare reform at 40. Number three, economic fairness and opportunity, 37. These hippie values, goddamn lefty, dumb, helicopter, millennial raised baby Z little libtards wanting economic fairness and opportunity. They are kids. They're cute when they're young, aren't they? They're so cute. They're so cute. God love them. Next, they want 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth most important issue to college students today. Remember, we have yet to hear Israel-Palestine. We have yet to hear that yet. Fourth most important issue here we got is racial injustice and civil rights. Okay. Okay. Got no opinion on that. I think that's good. What are you going to say about that? That's good that young people entering the world have an awareness as if they were sleeping and that they've suddenly awoken. What? Did I say woke? No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. But that's what I mean. I mean, just having an awareness of it. Okay. So look, by the way, there ain't nothing you can do. I got a bunch of my buddies, who still, I'm not going to say, how do I say that? Because I almost said I got a bunch of buddies who are still racist, and that's not true. Like, I don't have any race, but I have buddies who their children are far more assimilated with the diversity of modern American culture, far more than their dads are. And my kid's best friend is a black dude. And look, I was raised in a school. I had one black dude in my entire school. I didn't even know any until I got sent to boarding school. You didn't know any. Oh, very good. You didn't know any what? You're racist. No, I mean, I didn't really have any choice as to who my neighbors were or what neighborhood I lived in when I was 10. So get off my back. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to sort of go, okay. I mean, I did know growing up that there were neighborhoods in the city of Chicago that were just a couple blocks away that you didn't go. You didn't drive in that direction. You didn't go there were no new stores in that direction. You didn't go over there. So that's good. That's good that racial injustice is good. Climate change comes in at number 5. So that's 5. Climate change. 35% of college students say climate change is the 5th most important. Gun control is the 6th most important to college students. 32% say that that's the most important issue to them. Immigration policy comes in at 21. That's those are it's the 21% of college kids who are very close with their dads. They sit and they watch all summer long. They're going to sit and watch Fox News with their dad. Immigration's important, but I think that's right about where it should be. 6th on the list. National security. Okay, now this is where I get into a little bit jinky. National security comes in only 15% of college students. Only 15% of college students believe that national security should be one of our top concerns. And it would be in the top 3 of mine. It would be maybe even number 1. Smart national security. But for college kids, it's down. Only 15% of college kids think that national security /terrorism. I don't know. Is it because we're the 9/11 people? Is it because I sat there on that day and watched this happening and like shook in my bones and thought, okay, all bets are off. We live in a different world now. And honestly, for 5 years after 9/11, admit it, for 5 years after 9/11, we were all waiting for what else was going to happen. What happens next? What's the next thing? And it never did. And an entire generation, I think, grew up knowing that nothing ever did. And that's how you get squirrely. That's how you forget. You forget history. What do they say about those who forget history? They are doomed to repeat it. Doomed. The Middle East conflict between Israel and Palestine comes in at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Outside the top 10, 13%. It's not even one of the 10 most important issues on college campuses today. 13% of college students believe that the conflict in the Middle East is the most important thing happening in America right now. So there you have it. I think the media was lying to us. I think they were doing that thing that they do where they get us all excited about something. Like we need to know, like this is the most important thing that's happening. Again, laid in bed in this very room, watching a lady on CNN say, no one on a college campus in America should feel safe tonight. Ugh, chilling. Oh, piss off, you dumbass. All right, there you go. The economy. So here's some news about the economy. This is how I'm going to tell you the news about the economy. I'm just going to read what I cut and pasted from the article. Okay, here's what we... widespread pessimism about the economy and among the middle class, working class. That's us. That's us. Our widespread pessimism is reflected in the results of a Redfield and Wilton Strategies poll conducted on behalf of Newsweek on April the 11th. According to the survey, some 50% of Americans believe that the U.S. economy is heading in the wrong direction, while only 25% said it's going in the right direction. Americans are also negative about their own financial situation. Some 42% of responders said their financial situation was worse in the last year. 42% of Americans say their personal financial situation is worse in the last year. Only 26% said it had improved, while 32% said it had stayed the same. But overwhelmingly, more people in America believe that their personal financial situation has not improved over the last few years. And I have seen people, economists, be on TV trying to explain to us, the smart people, trying to explain to us, the working class, well, we couldn't possibly understand about our own situation. I've seen smart people on TV talking about how, well, that's just the politicization of an understanding of what is actually happening. And then they start talking about all kinds of bullshit economic stuff. If you look at our gross domestic product, if you look at where the employment, and they start going into all that bullshit. But meanwhile, you, me, your neighbors, the guy you work with, the guy you stand in the unemployment line with, we all know that's bullshit because shit is way more expensive and ain't nobody been getting raises. Nonsense about the economy. We're going to start hearing all of this bullshit about the Biden economy. And look, I don't take a side politically. I think that Biden needs to go. I think that Trump should be in jail. And I think that Robert Kennedy Jr. is a scary fucking third option. There is no good choices here. That's how I feel. These people are all monsters. With that said, by the way, I still believe in a brokered. I said this years ago, or not years ago, months ago, but I believe that the Democratic National Convention in Chicago is going to be brokered. I think you're going to see something happen, and there is no way they can run Biden. They can't. They can't. I mean, so what happens if they can't run Trump? Like, what happens if Trump goes to jail? You can't run from, oh God, maybe you can. Why? Because you can do anything, because there are no rules, there are no laws. Everything that we think is real is just a construct created by a group of men in a room a couple hundred years ago, saying this is how this is going to go. And now we all just act like it's a thing. Well, we're about to elect a president who's probably going to be in jail when he wins the election. For fuck's sake. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, the economy. Gas is up. Milk is up. Everything is up. Everything that you and me need and rely on is up. Cheese is up, eggs is up, everything is up. My God, 2 liters of knockoff soda, 2 liters of store brand knockoff diet soda is now $1.50. It was 75 cents 2 years ago. A bottle, doubled in price. All right. Don't tell me about the economy. Don't start barking up that tree about how the economy's great. It's not. It might be great for the rich people, and it is. You know, we have a segment on this show. We call it This Day in Rich People, where we celebrate how cool it is to be rich and cool things that rich people are doing. It's great to be rich. If you're rich, it's us. It's the working class. It's those of us who, and again, last time I'm going to say this. We got to stop turning on each other. We got to remember that there's 15% crazy people who are just should never be in charge of anything. That's the 15% on the right. And then there's the 15% crazy people on the left who should never be in charge of anything. That leaves 70% of us here in the middle with various hues and shades of purple and red and blue and whatever. We're in here. We can work together. Don't tell me about the economy. Don't tell me about the economy when it only benefits a certain, and it doesn't matter what party is there. Reds, but the rich people loved Trump. They loved him. Rich people love Biden too. That's what it's about. And once again, we just get screwed. Both of these old men need to be eliminated from the conversation. One by jail and the other through brokered convention. That's my thoughts. And that's as political as I'm willing to go. Although I don't know if there was like an opening at BAP. I was thinking about that. I'm like, maybe I should just go political because I can go political. It's just I resist that so much. And I think that my political voice, my opinions, my policy, I think it's so all over the place that it'd be untenable. Like, you know what I mean? I don't fit the narrative. Oh, well. And besides, it would always go from like some political issue to being about us and how we can be better. You know what I mean? It would always go into that nonsense. There's no home for that. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Let's see here. What else do we have? The economy. Oh, yeah. This is where they tell us about how the middle class doesn't understand. We're going to move on from that. How about this? Boy Scouts. That weird all-American Norman Rockwell cult, weird sex cult. It's a sex cult. Boy Scouts, from what I've heard, not all across the board, but, Scoutmasters. Here's my thing. Never liked the Boy Scouts. Never liked them. And I think it's because there was a kid in my class when I was very young who was a Boy Scout. And I think being a Boy Scout was a very big part of his brand. And I fucking hated his brand. I hated this kid. He was a Boy Scout. And I was just a dork ass Boy Scout. And me, I wasn't like one of the greasers from a 1950s movie. I was just a normal kid, but I didn't like him. You dork. The guy's a dork. So I was never a fan of the Boy Scouts. And then, when the story started coming out about Boy Scout troop leaders and all that, I'm like, yeah, see? That's why I avoided that, I would say to my grandma as she took me to Catholic church on Sunday. Yeah. What are you doing, Grandma? I'm hearing the same things about these guys. So the Boy Scouts are in the news because the Boy Scouts are changing. The Boy Scouts are transitioning. That's right. Look at this. The greatest of American traditions. Taking a group of pubescent boys out in the woods with a bunch of single dads for a weekend of roughing it. Gather together, boys. Puppy pile. It's going to get cold tonight. Everybody lay on me. Boy Scouts of America are changing their name. They're going to be more inclusive. They're going to be changing their name to Scouting America. Ladies and gentlemen, Scouting America. No longer Boy Scouts. I mean, I can see that. I can see that. It was inevitable, right? Would you're running the Boy Scouts, let's talk about the Boy Scouts at the corporate level. Okay, you're running the Boy Scouts. You're really reliant on certain tie-ins with big people. Like people like to a proud sponsor of the Boy Scouts, Shell Energy, shit like that. Like there's a lot going on at Boy Scouts corporate. And then you're like, oh, it's 2024. Really? You got the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. Like, are the Girl Scouts part of the Boy Scouts? Don't answer that too quickly. Like, because that's what we would think, right? But no, they might be two completely separate organizations, distinct from one another. I don't know. But why wouldn't the Girl Scouts have to change? I don't know, whatever. I don't know. This is stupid. What are they going to allow? Are they going to allow girls into the Boy Scouts now? Are they going to allow gender fluid people into the Boy Scouts now? I mean, and by the way, I say allow. I mean, well, why not? I mean, just let any dork who wants to join this dorky cult be in it. Shouldn't matter. We kind of live in a world now that doesn't really make a distinction between, boys and girls activities together other than, sex, I guess. I mean, keep the boys away from the girls. And powerlifting. I think powerlifting is fair. You can't have girls trying to powerlift against guys because a male is always going to win that powerlifting. But everything else, I mean, I don't know. Why can't 14-year-old boys and girls go and camp in the woods together all night? Oh, that's why. Oh, I get it now. Yeah. It's the plot of like half a dozen 80s slasher flicks, right? Boys and girls camping together. Irving, Texas. What? Get out of here. Boy Scouts of America is based in Irving, Texas? Get out of town. The Boy Scouts of America announced that after 114 years that it's going to change its name and will become Scouting America in an effort to emphasize inclusion as it works to move past the turmoil of bankruptcy and a flood of sexual abuse claims. Yeah, all right. So there you have it. They're going to change their name to Scouting America in an effort to emphasize inclusion. Now, the reaction to hearing that from anyone over 45, I don't know why this happens, but it does. And I even fall prey to it every once in a while because it feels like it's being crammed down our throat. I get that. So when we hear inclusion, this is Boy Scouts of America's effort to emphasize inclusion. Me, Barney, Byron, our response to something like that is, jeez. Here we go again. But honestly, that falls into one of the categories for me. It's like just because somebody else is getting taller doesn't mean I get shorter. I don't give a shit. What do I care? That's just because I'll tell you who does. I'll tell you who doesn't mind this at all. Well, I was talking about the kids. Remember, we're talking about kids earlier today. My 14-year-old son would be like, what do you mean girls can't be in the Boy Scout? Like that would be weird to him. That would seem like a weird concept to him. That girls would not be able, that it's just a thing. It's just all dudes. I mean, and this is a kid who grew up playing Plano youth football where his team every year had multiple girls on it. There's girls that play in the Plano High School Football League. And by the way, high school girls play. By the way, did you know this? Because this really blew my mind. And I think that this is how you get it done. This is how you move the ball forward as far as equity and stuff in sport when it comes to men and women. If the news media had run down and for years been talking about she's one girl and she's playing cornerback at this Texas high school football, if they had done that and made it a big deal, you would have had people like, I don't think girls should be playing football. And this is this guy. You got that whole thing happening. But you know what happened instead? Nobody covered it. And apparently for the last decade, dozens of girls have been playing organized high school football here in Texas. In fact, I was hard pressed to find a game that didn't have a girl. The varsity on Flower Mound had a girl kicker who was booting it like 50 yards. That's how you get it done. You just do it. You just do it and you don't say anything and you don't make a big deal about it. And then all of a sudden, you get a guy like me who probably would have thought girls shouldn't be playing at the high school level. It's not safe for them. You get a guy like me sitting in a stand going, that's a fucking girl? That's a girl who just kicked that? I mean, yeah, that's how you do it. But if you prime everybody and get them all nice and ginned up by going, should women be playing football? You give time for people to come up with, bullshit feelings about shit. When, if they just watch it. So anyway, Boy Scouts, they're going to now become Scouting America. Kids don't care. Kids, I don't think, is that a big thing. I mean, I guess I just don't know. When I was a kid, Boy Scouts was kind of a big thing, although apparently not as big as it was in the 60s. Like in the 60s, it was really big, but then the 70s had counterculture and like, what is this, the Hitler Youth? You know, that kind of, there was a little bit of that among the parents, I think. Certainly that was kind of my mom's vibe. My mom didn't want me in Boy Scouts. You know, it's just like, what is that, a paramilitary organization? You know, something like that. Yeah. Yes, Mom, it's a youth paramilitary organization run by the government. You're not going anywhere near them. So I was never a Boy Scout guy. But anyway, there you go. Boy Scouts. Apparently you get elected to Congress if you make it all the way through and become an Eagle Scout. Did you know that? Someone told me that once. Well, you know, if you get to be an Eagle Scout, then you get elected to Congress. And I'm like, what? I don't think those two things. I was like 12 when someone told me this. I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. Yeah, it is. I'm like, no, just because you're an Eagle Scout, then you're like, what? You get in line for your turn at Congress? Basically. RFK Jr. is in the news today. RFK Jr. is in the news because he says funny, silly things from time to time. And apparently this came from the New York Times. So, you know, 50-50 on whether there's even a shred of truth to it. RFK Jr. Says, now he's the son of Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy, who was shot and killed on his way to the Democratic nomination for president in 1968. He was shot and killed, and now his son, who is is this really? I don't want to watch it. All right, here. You know what? Yeah, April. Okay, you know what? I just realized something. April sent me a piece of video on this subject. I'd rather just watch the video. So this is So RFK Jr. says that he was diagnosed with having a brain tumor. And then another doctor said, I don't think it's a brain tumor. I think that it's a worm, or it's like something dead, like a worm crawled in your head. And that really is the big question. Like, how does the worm get into your head? I don't give a shit what he went through. I want to know how I can stop a worm from crawling into my head. But apparently a worm crawled into his brain, started eating his brain. This is according to RFK Jr., a guy who wants to be president. The worm crawled into his brain, started eating his brain, and then I've got the story. I'll give you the story. But first, this is how CNN covered it. And then died. It just died, and it's up there, and that's what was mistaken in the MRI for a brain tumor, when in fact, it's not a brain tumor, he says. It's just a dead worm in my head.
With the presidential election, has just come out with this extraordinary bizarre article on RFK, and they're reporting that doctors, in a deposition, that RFK said doctors found a worm in his brain that had eaten part of his brain and then died there. I mean, you laugh, but I mean, what might this mean? I mean, what might this mean to an election, to hearing that he said this in a deposition? It
probably means, and one of the things that I tell my clients all the time is try not to go into depositions high. That's usually what I would suggest, and that would be my words of wisdom. I have political issues with RFK, but this is just a little bit beyond my pale of expertise.
I don't even know what to say. If a worm ate his brain, which is mind-blowing on so many levels. I mean, everybody's talking about the cognitive, capabilities of Biden, the cognitive capabilities of Donald Trump.
How did the worm get there? I just have a lot of questions.
Right. I mean, that's one of those times where, as a comms person, you kind of deflect and say, how about them Rangers? I mean, you just deflect and you go to something else, right? I don't even know how to answer something like that. So.
I had to bring it up because...
All right, there you have it. RFK Jr. says he's got a dead, decomposing worm in his brain. RFK Jr. says the doctors found a dead worm in his brain. In 2010, RFK Jr. was experiencing memory loss and mental fogginess, so severe that a friend grew concerned he might have a brain tumor. Mr. Kennedy said he consulted several of the country's top neurologists. Several doctors noticed a dark spot on Mr. Kennedy's brain scans and concluded that he'd had a tumor. He said in a 2012 deposition reviewed by the New York Times, Mr. Kennedy was immediately scheduled for a procedure at Duke University Medical Center by the same surgeon who had operated on his uncle, Ted, earlier. Let's see here. While packing for his trip, remember he's going on a trip for brain surgery, he received a call from a doctor at New York's Presbyterian Hospital who had a different opinion. Mr. Kennedy, he believed, had a dead parasite in his head Ew! This doctor believed that the abnormality seen on his scans was caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then just died, Kennedy said in the deposition. Okay, that's all we need to know. There you go. That's the doctor's explanation of it, and that's his explanation of it. We don't know if it's true. What we do know is it's gross. That is gross. That is not. That story, like, okay, so how does it get in? How does well, here's the problem. A lot of the headlines say worm, but then you get into the story and it says parasite. Now, are worms and parasites the same thing? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe on some scientific level, maybe. I don't know. But when you use the word worm, we hear and process that as just the common sidewalk worm. So we're imagining a sidewalk worm, right? And it's in his brain. So now we're picturing a sidewalk worm in his brain, and now they say it's eating the brain. So now we're picturing our brain and a sidewalk worm just, like just eating away at our brain. And then they say it's dead. So now we got this dead sidewalk worm. That's not what it was. Like, it's probably like how small, right? Like a parasite. Now they're calling it a parasite. Still gross, don't get me wrong, but it changes how concerned I am about how it got in. When you're talking about a sidewalk worm, you're like, how'd it get in? Was he snorting worms? Like, how did it crawl in? Imagine, worms don't move quickly, do they? They don't. Yet, for some reason, when we talk about things, we always talk about things moving slowly. We talk about turtles and slugs. We never say worms. But worms move pretty damn slowly. So, like, how would a worm get into your head? Like, Eddie Van Halen had to have surgery in his ear because, like, a cockroach in a hotel he was staying at climbed into his ear and laid a bunch of eggs, and then the eggs hatched, and he went deaf in one ear, and it was terrible, and it was gross. And holy shit, that story ruined me for a couple of years. But this is kind of like that. How does a parasite, did it grow organically? Is it just like, did your body just, then it's like your son. It's like your child. Did your body just produce this? And now it's dead in there. That's gross. It's just a gross story. Just a gross story. And it's making the news today. All right, there you have it. That's the story of RFK Jr. How about Rashee Rice? Can we talk about Rashee Rice? This son of a bitch. So Rashee Rice, of course, we know him. Like I say, as we do this show from the lovely, lovely, sunny, it's hot today, campus of SMU. Where Rashee Rice played his college ball, drafted in the second round by the Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Rashee Rice was looking at nothing but cupcakes and, flower pots. I don't know. Shit was looking good for Rashee Rice just a couple of weeks ago. And then he came to town here in Dallas. Actually, I think he still lives here because he seems to be here a lot. And got into a car accident here right on 75, a bad one. He was street racing. He and some of his buddies were street racing each other. Both of the cars were his. Both of the cars that were racing that crashed into 6 other cars, causing some injuries and all kinds of just mayhem. Both cars were his. Rashee Rice. It's like, oh, he's a D-bag. He's a dumbass. He's a young kid with a whole bunch of money. And they left the scene. I'm sorry. The worst part is not even that they were racing. It's that they left the scene. It's that after causing this big 6-car accident, he and his boys were seen just walking away. Not even slightly concerned about the welfare of anybody that they just plowed into. They just walked away. They're real pieces of shit human beings. So over the past couple of weeks, there's been all kinds of stories. What are the Kansas City Chiefs going to do about the Rashee Rice situation? I mean, they went and they took Xavier Worthy out of Texas there. So are they planning on getting rid of him? Do you get rid of him? He had a pretty good year last year. I don't think he had 1,000 yards, but I think he had close. When Patrick Mahomes wasn't throwing to Kelsey, he'd probably throwing to Rice. They haven't had a long history of great receivers, especially not since losing Hill. So I don't know. Then we started hearing that, they weren't happy with him, that they're going to wait and they're going to see what's going to come down from the NFL. Was a report just a couple of days ago that the Kansas City Chiefs themselves believe that he is going to be suspended for at least half of the upcoming season. So they are moving forward with, trying to do that, trying to work on knowing that they're not going to have him for at least half a season. So that was the latest. And now Rashee Rice is in the news again because, you can't just behave yourself. You can't just look at the world and go, you know what? My whole dream is imploding right now. I might be a has-been. I will never play again. I better get used to setting records in the CFL because that's going to be the height of my glory if I don't pick up my shit. No, he didn't do that. He just, continued going out and being an asshole. Here's a report out of Dallas where Rashee Rice is under investigation for alleged nightclub assault on Monday night. Rashee Rice going old school 1990s pro athlete, beating people up in bars. This is why they have VIP sections, Rashee. You shouldn't be just out there mixing with the Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, who already faces 8 felony charges for a multi-car crash on March 30th, is now being investigated for allegedly hitting a photographer at a nightclub in Dallas on Monday night. According to the TV station, Dallas police are interviewing witnesses after an incident at Lit Kitchen. Rice's availability for this season was already in question after he lost control of a Lamborghini while allegedly driving 119 miles per hour and causing a 6-car vehicle crash on a Dallas highway. 2 victims in the crash have filed a civil suit against Rice and suspended SMU quarterback Teddy Knox, who was also speeding in Rice's Chevy Corvette. Both cars. That's got to, again, I always think that's got to be the most difficult call to your insurance guy. Just going to tell them that both cars. Yeah, it was an accident. Who hit you? Because that's immediately, who can we blame? It's like, yeah, it wasn't my fault, but it was also my car that you wrote a policy on. So Rice's availability for this season was already in question. Rice could face punishment under the league's personal conduct policy. Commissioner Roger Goodell said during draft weekend that the NFL will let the league. Who cares? The Chiefs covered their bases, trading up in the first round to select Texas receiver Xavier Worthy after signing veteran receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown in free agency. Rice led the team's wide receivers with 938. Oh my God, look at that. I said I didn't think he made 1,000. I was just guessing. I didn't think he was a 1,000-yard receiver. But I didn't think it would be that close. 938 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 79 receptions. I don't like this kid. I despise this kid. And I think it's compounded by the fact that my own son and I would go to the stadium, here living on the SMU campus. We'd go to the stadium on game days on occasion when we were lucky enough to get ourselves some tickets. And we'd sit and we'd watch this kid. And I remember him saying he was probably 13 years old or whatever he was back then. He probably said, Dad, who should we be watching? Who's anybody of these guys going pro? And I remember, Rashee Rice. He's one of the best receivers in the country. We got to watch this kid. And every game we went, we watched him. And then he got drafted. We're like, that's great. That's great. And then he turns out to be an asshole. And then he turns out to be a complete dick smoke. Ugh, punching photographers, walking away from mass collisions. He's an idiot. And so now I want him suspended for the entire season. I think he should be suspended for the entire season. I don't think the young man's career should be taken away from him, but I think he should be penalized at least 1 year of his life, 1 year of his earning potential. Hell, make him go back into the draft. No, I guess that wouldn't be fair to Kansas City because they already own him. Own him. Oh, boy. That ain't good. They've already got him under contract. All right, there's the Rashee Rice story. Rashee Rice. What else do we have here? Cotton Bowl. The Cotton Bowl is in the news. Here's a local story for us here in Dallas, Texas. The Cotton Bowl, that venerable old stadium right there in the beautiful outskirts of downtown. And by beautiful outskirts of downtown, I mean the worst possible neighborhood in all of Dallas. The Cotton Bowl. Oh, it's a shame more people don't go to the Cotton Bowl. The Cotton Bowl. Well, Fair Park, right? I guess that's not the worst neighborhood in Dallas. It's pretty damn sketchy, is my point. If your wife called you and said, I got a flat tire, you'd be like, where are you? And if she said, I'm in front of Fair Park, you'd be like, oh, fuck. And you get down there. So anyway, Cotton Bowl. Cotton Bowl's ugly. I know it's cool and it's old. Look, I come from Chicago. Every stupid thing we got is old, and then we tear it down and we're fine with it. Comiskey Park, we had to tear that down. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was a pit. It was awful. It smelled like urine and farts, but we had memories, and then they tore it down, and now we've got a decent ballpark. That's fine. I got no problem with our ballpark. Wrigley Field, they made it better. It was old and it was stupid and it smelled like urine and farts, and they made it pretty again and they put in new plumbing, I guess. I haven't been there since the change, but whatever, people seem to like it. Soldier Field, they don't know what they're going to do with Soldier Field. So I get this appreciation of old stadiums. So what are you going to do at the Cotton Bowl? I'm surprised it's still up, but hey. So Dallas is saying that they're going to lure a new sports team to the Cotton Bowl. What does the Cotton Bowl hold? I mean, max. Couldn't that place hold like 100,000? It's one of those big old-timey stadiums, isn't it? Maybe 70,000? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a big stadium. It's not like, it's bigger than a baseball stadium. It's bigger, it seats more than the American Airlines Arena. So what team are they going to bring in? That's what they're saying. The Cotton Bowl Stadium could be home to a new professional sports team as soon as this summer. How exciting. Everybody was talking about this yesterday. What? Oh, my God. Come here. Come here. Come here. Sorry, we're being interrupted by the dog. Come here. Come here. You just say hi. You don't want to be on camera? You can't go out. You can't go out, baby, okay? You got to just wait. We only got a little bit more. Oh, my God, it is. It's already 2 o'clock. Holy shit. I didn't realize. Well, I started 15 minutes late. All right, so the Cotton Bowl, and they're saying there's going to be a new sports team coming to town. Everybody's like, oh, what are we going to get? It's not going to be anything good. It's not going to be anything you want to go see. Cotton Bowl isn't going to get like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not just going to announce that over the next couple of weeks by summer. So what's it going to be? It's going to be a women's soccer team. So it's going to be. It's going to be a professional, apparently women's professional soccer is now a thing. I guess inspired by the success of the WNBA. Perceived success of the WNBA. I don't know. But now there's going to be a women's soccer, and they're going to play at stadiums, and they're doing the same thing that I said the WNBA did that was wrong, and it's a disservice to the athletes and a disservice to the fans, and that is they are putting these teams in stadiums that are going to be empty. What? Sorry, the dog. What are you, a big fan of women's soccer? I mean, I get it. I'm a fan of women's soccer, and if the dog would let me, I'll talk about what I want to say here. All right, what are you doing? You stuck now? Oh, God, this is happening with the dog. You're stuck, aren't you? You're stuck. Well, here. Come on. All right, come here. Come on, all the way up. There you go. All right, she got stuck. Now she needs to go. That's my hand. You need to go. You need to go. Come on. It's her butt. She can't turn around. She's on too small of a platform to be able to turn around. Come on, baby. Come this way. Here. I got you. There you go. All right, now reset yourself. Reset yourself and go. All right, go. Come on, go. There you go. All right, or you can just sit here on my lap if you want. But here, I think you should go. I think you need to go. There she goes. Sorry about that. All right, so the disservice that I think was done to the WNBA is that they took a women's basketball league and they made them play in stadiums designed for the NBA. And what happens is that the few thousand or so fans that are really into this and want to support this league and want to grow with this league, they have to go to games and feel like, oh my God, there's nobody here. They have to look at all these empty seats. It's a disservice. And then when you want to promote the league, when you want to make the game seem exciting and fun, and you show us like a sizzle reel, and we're watching the sizzle reel, and there's like thousands of empty seats, that takes away from it. They can play in smaller stadiums, and they can pack these smaller stadiums. Maybe you need to build their own kind of stadium, whatever. And you know what? When you have to tear them down, that's great, because that just means that the league has grown. But it's such a disservice. And if they're launching a new women's professional soccer league, which I am all for, because I told you I'm watching that Welcome to Wrexham. And Welcome to Wrexham season 3, I think, or season 2 or whatever it is. I don't know. They all blend together. It's all just about soccer and I don't get it. But one of the seasons has about 5 or 6 episodes in a row that deal with the Wrexham women's team. Let me tell you, I love me some Rosie Hughes. Rosie Hughes, you just don't understand Rosie Hughes. They got a song for her and everything. She's like the greatest female soccer player Wrexham's ever seen. Rosie Hughes. Again, see, this is what's so weird about me. I don't know about soccer, but for some reason, because of this stupid reality show, I know about 4th tier British League soccer, 4th tier, women's even. So look, a great story about the women there. And women's soccer is cool, man. I mean, I think honestly, I have seen more women's Olympic soccer games than I have men's Olympic soccer games. I just have. Women's soccer is great. But I just think you do the fans, and I think you do the athletes. I think you do them all a disservice when you launch a new league and one of the teams is going to have to play every home game in the Cotton Bowl. Come on, man. That's not going to inspire any kind of this. There's something good happening here. No, it's going to look like nobody's there. WNBA has been suffering through this problem for years. WNBA should maybe be playing in, I don't know, whatever. I got into an argument here. I'll show you this. This is an argument. I wasn't proud of this argument, and I wouldn't even really call it an argument. And I think I'm just being hyperbolic when I use argument. But on the Twitter last night, I made a joke because it was the final preseason game of the Chicago Sky, which is Angel Reese's new team. You know, the LSU girl. She's the one who's not Caitlin Clark, or is it Caitlin Collins? I don't know. So the Chicago Sky were playing their final preseason game, which is so weird because final preseason game, didn't they just have the WNBA draft? Like, do they have the WNBA draft like the week before the season starts? Because WNBA is like, they're getting ready to start the regular season. This was last night, the final preseason game. Now this is a piece of video that I saw, and I just thought it was funny, and I made a stupid joke. But what's funny about it is that Keenan Allen of the Chicago Bears, Roma Dunze of the Chicago Bears, DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears, and Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears all went to the Sky game. They all went to the Chicago Sky WNBA basketball game. And this is a video that was put out about it. And it says in the video, at Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze and DJ Moore at the Sky game, wink, wink. They say they're waiting for one more. And that was Caleb Williams, right? So that's who they're waiting for. And I made a joke based on it. I said, it looks like they're waiting for a few thousand more because this is the game and this is the crop. Look at this. Look at this. This is the disservice that is done to women's sports. This is where the Sky play. All right, here you go. Look at this video. Look at the empty seats. That's Keenan Allen. And they supposedly are a good team, and they've got a big star now. They drafted maybe they had a big star before. I shouldn't be saying that. Anyway, my point is this. I don't think that you launched the new women's soccer league, pro women's soccer league, that is truly going to mean a lot to a lot of girls, a lot of young women who, this is good. This means that after college, they don't have to just go take a job doing something they don't want to do. Maybe they can go move to Seattle or something and play pro level soccer for a few years and make a decent wage. And I don't know what the wage is. What does a goalie in the American Women's Professional Soccer League make? I don't know. I don't know if you need to have, I don't know if it's like being in the NFL in the 1960s where all those dudes had second jobs during the off season. I don't know. But I do know that it sucks and it's not cool to have them go to these stadiums that there is no way that they can sell out. No, I do not think that the new Women's Professional Soccer League is going to sell out the Cotton Bowl for home games. I don't think they'll do it once. I don't think they'll ever half sell it out. It's about demand. And it is not to say that the demand can't grow. I'm not one of these people sitting here going, women shouldn't be allowed to play sports because that's men's terrain. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that these are unfair economic expectations being placed on these women in these sports. Let them grow. Let them be small. Let them start to, percolate. Oh, the NCAA women's basketball tournament took a huge leap, right? That was a big thing. That might be a thing now for the rest of the time. I don't know. There are some people who are like, no, it's just because they got that Caitlin Clark. Okay, so maybe they'll find another star to get behind. What that did show with the explosion of women's basketball during the tournament, what it did show is that there is an audience if you can tantalize them with something. That audience was real. That audience was real. Looky-loos? Oh, they're just looky-loos. Yeah, maybe so, but a lot of looky-loos are probably going to stick around now. I mean, anyway, going to put a women's soccer team in the Cotton Bowl? Are you kidding me? All right, moving on. All right, what else do we have here? Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is being talked about today. Jon Stewart, former host of The Daily Show and a rabble-rouser. Apparently, Netflix is doing that Just for Laughs comedy festival going on right now. Netflix is the new HBO. It used to be, HBO used to be the place for comedy. And then Netflix about 10 years ago said, yeah. And then Netflix came in and they took over and they became the place for comedy. And so they do this comedy festival, Netflix. I don't know what it's called. It's not Just for Laughs. I think Just for Laughs is up in Canada. But it's a big Netflix. And so all week it's happening, this comedy festival, and Netflix is doing a whole bunch of special things. Jon Stewart performed at the comedy festival. He says, here's what's making news. He was talking about Joe Biden. Says, Jon Stewart, he just shouldn't be president. Jon Stewart torches Biden at comedy show. Jon Stewart went hard on President Joe Biden's age during a set at this year's Netflix Is a Joke Fest, but went even harder on anti-wokeness. Friday's show wasn't the first time Stewart addressed Biden's age, having ranted about both Biden and former President Donald Trump during his return to The Daily Show in February. But he insisted that he's merely pointing out the obvious. Here's what Stewart had to say. Quote, I know liberals say, don't say that Joe Biden is old. Don't say what. People can see it with their own eyes. You can say it. He can't hear you. I know you know how fucking old he is, and I know you don't want to say it because Trump is so scary, but he's so fucking old. When you watch him on television, you're nervous, aren't you? That was Jon Stewart's rant on Joe Biden. And a lot of people are like, yeah, he's a Trump guy now. I don't think he's a Trump guy now. But everything that Jon Stewart said there is absolutely true. See, this idea that Jon Stewart, I guess for years, because he had, a more left bent than he did right in the age of Bill O'Reilly and the rise of Fox News, Jon Stewart was, I guess, pigeonholed as, a lefty, a liberal, or what. Yeah, they did the same thing to Bill Maher. Just because certain issues, they were a little bit more left on. But I think we're seeing with these guys, Jon Stewart and Bill Maher, they've always been moderates. There are a whole bunch of people who probably 25, 30 years ago would have considered themselves like solid left liberals who are now moderates. That's part of that 70%. We all need to seek some form of ideological moderation. We just got to. Otherwise, there's going to be no running water. That's really it. That's, you want to keep pushing this Civil War thing. You want to keep pretending like, no, we can't live with scary, weird libs. You want to keep doing that? No plumbing. We're going to have no plumbing for a good generation because that ends with fucking crazy apocalyptic shit going down because we've got the weapons to do that now. So that's how that ends. The Civil War ends differently in 2024 than it did in 1865, 60. I don't know. Anyway, Jon Stewart's a truth teller, man. He's always been a truth teller. It's just that sometimes the truth that he's been telling has been shit that didn't fit your political narrative, so you just dismissed him as being a stupid lefty. But he's right. Biden's old. We should all be concerned about this. 4 more years of this? Are you kidding me? And by the exact same token, Trump is basically the same age. I don't understand why that isn't being made more of a deal about. I mean, other than, the diaper thing recently, Trump's incontinent. Okay, most people or a lot of people his age are. So that's why they have adult diapers. You don't need to shame the guy over it. I mean, yeah, it's gross and he poops his pants and, and then the other guy, Biden, he's a drool case. He's too old. But I don't know. We got nobody on deck. Who we got on deck? Kamala? All right, let's go. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. She's different. I'll go with anybody different that isn't RFK Jr. Thank you. I've said my piece. Not saying I want her. I'm saying that if The dog's turning into an asshole. If Evel Knievel rose from the grave, I might go with him before I'd go with any of these two people. And Evel Knievel was a nutbag. She's really, really being a jerk right now. The dog is. Frank says Republicans don't want a competent person as president like Ron DeSantis. Competent. I'm gonna stick on competent. Is Ron DeSantis competent? Can he do things? Can he work the levers of government? Yes, I will agree with that. He can get done what he wants. Is he a horrible person morally and, in most other ways that has revealed himself to be at times either a kiss ass or a feckless, I'm going to stand up to you? He is a mess. So don't bring that Ron DeSantis bullshit to me. But he is competent. I'll give you that. He's probably competent. That's what scares people. That's what all the crazy libs are like. That's why they used to be worried about DeSantis, which is one of the things that the crazy libs love about Trump. The crazy libs didn't have to worry about tearing down DeSantis because Trump did it for them. Trump just nuked DeSantis and any chance that he had at anything. And, he did the crazy libs a favor who don't like him. I don't know. DeSantis seems like too much of an ass kiss, Frank. If that doesn't bother you, come on. I need a principled man. I need a moral guy. I need a guy that's going to be like, I don't like Trump because Trump's obviously a con man, but also Ron DeSantis, he's been playing both sides of it now for about 5 years. 5 years, 8 years, right? Well, I don't know. When did DeSantis first pop on the scene? I don't know. Who else we got, Frank? Who else? Give me another name. Why not? Let me just riff on politicians that I'll give you first impressions. Just throw them out. I'll give you first impressions. Moving on. No, don't do that. Never mind. Forget that. Because here's a story I want to talk about. This is a crazy story. This is for us big old uglies. For us big old uglies, this is really good news, especially if we happen to find ourselves in Belgium. I don't know what Belgium is. This is Belgium. Belgium is a country, right? Apparently. Belgium's a country. I mean, I'd have bet it was a country. If you'd have just said to me, Belgium, city or country, I'd go, country. I'm going to final answer, country. So I think it's a country. It is a country. But where is it? Not a clue. I would put it, there's a whole bunch of Netherlands. Is that it? Is it like somewhere in the Netherlands? I think that's like an entire region. I got like 15 countries in the Netherlands that when I don't know where they go, they go somewhere in there. I don't know where Belgium is. France. I'm thinking Belgium is kind of a mashup of France, Germany, and Switzerland. Am I right? I might be right. I feel pretty strong about that now that I'm thinking about Belgium. All right, anyway, Belgium has a new law, and it concerns their sex workers. Apparently, making the sex for money is completely legal in the Belgianese capital of Frank. I don't know. What is the city in Belgium? Oh, my God. In Bruges. Is that in Belgium? Remember that movie, In Bruges? I think that was Belgium. I don't know. What's a Belgian city? Just call it Frank. Belgian sex workers will now receive health insurance, pensions, and maternity leave in the world's first of its kind sex worker legislation. So apparently, they're showing some of these sex workers. Why is it that whenever you see like real sex workers, and I'm not talking about like, a TV show where, hey, look who I brought in walking the streets, like where it's always like some super hot chick who's just dressed skanky. And like, look that's never what they look like. Real prostitutes are always so disappointing. I want that on a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt. Would you guys buy that t-shirt? Real prostitutes are always disappointing. I'm just saying when you see them, like the only ones I've ever seen in real life on the street, I've been like, nah, pass. Belgianese, the country is Belgium. I'm going to struggle with this story. Belgium has become the first country in the world to approve of labor law on employment contracts for sex workers. Under the law, all right, so this is the big part of the law. The healthcare and all that stuff, that sounds fun. And that's very interesting. And but here's the big part of the law. So a lot of times, like, there'll be a dude that wants to pay for a lady's time. What am I talking to 15-year-olds? Like a client. Like a lot of times a client will want a specific prostitute and the prostitute will say no because either they're gross or they're their cousin or, I don't know, for whatever reason. The prostitute's like, nope, I'm turning you down. So now it's illegal for prostitutes to turn you down. Score one for the big uglies. Big uglies can't be denied a prostitute anymore. Brings new sense to the whole couldn't get laid in a whorehouse thing. What are you doing? All right, I gotta let the dog. She's going nuts. So we got more stuff to talk about, and I realize that we're already a half hour over time. It's okay. It's pledge week. I haven't gotten any tips, so I'll keep going until. We'll be right. Hold on. Let me let the dog out. Hold on. This thing's all ruined now. Okay, you go. Go outside. Go on, girl. Go. All this means is that I'm just going to have to get up and let her in a few minutes. All right, so here's how the new law works. If you want a particular prostitute and she keeps telling you no, that she doesn't want your business, you want a particular prostitute and you go to her and you say, I want you, and she says no, that's strike one. Where's one? Maybe a couple days later you come back to her and you say, hey, I want you, and she says nope. 2. You get 6 of these. You get 6. On the 6th no, if a prostitute tells you no 6 times, then it goes to mediation. There's like a lever in the Belgianese government that I don't even know if that's what it's called, but there's like a whole thing where if a prostitute says no to you 6 times, you can take her to court, and then someone's got to listen to her reasoning and then look at you and be like, well, I can see it. Case dismissed. Tell me you don't want that to be a TV show. Tell me that's not a TV show. Tell me you don't put cameras down there and you film these. Come on. The new law entitles sex workers to health insurance, pensions, unemployment, and family benefits. This law is the world's first. I cannot stress enough how important this is. I want to get to the details of the other thing. Lead to reversal of the recent trend of criminalizing clients. We hope that other countries will copy this text. The law makes it legal to give prostitutes employment contracts. It bestows certain rights on the sex worker and conditions on their employer. These include the right to refuse a client or a sexual act, as well as the right to interrupt a sexual act at any time without fear or dismissal or punishment. So if you stop, like if you're like doing it with a guy and then you're like, yeah, never mind, stop. It's like you can now legally stop and your pimp can't beat you up. I don't understand. Is that what this is? Because that's probably good. Let's see here. Invoking any of these rights. Sex workers can also end their contract at any time with a brothel. Well, that's good. They also have now a registered pimp office. It's called registered pimp offices. The law does not cover pornographic actors, strippers, or webcam performers, but pimps must have a registered office in Belgium and apply for approval before they can offer sex contracts to workers. This is crazy. That's crazy sex world. So what do women in Belgium look like? I mean, what are we talking about? Are these a good-looking people? That's what I'm wondering. Is this because there's some European countries where they're good-looking people, like the Germans. The Germans are good-looking people. But then you get to like the Estonians, and they're all Borats with like unibrows and. All right, moving on. What else do we have here? Travis Kelce. He's going to be in a new movie. It's going to be a Ryan Murphy movie. I like Ryan Murphy. Actually, I don't know if I like Ryan Murphy anymore. I used to like Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy, of course, made Nip Tuck. Ryan Murphy made Glee. Ryan Murphy made American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy made American Crime Story. Ryan Murphy is a pretty prolific television creator. He's good. But a lot of his like American Horror Story. First of all, think about it this way. Did you ever see Glee? You've seen Glee? You know what Glee is? Have you ever seen American Horror Story? Both of those shows came out of the same dude's head. One is wholesome and American and about a glee club and everybody. It's funny and it's jocular. And the other is like homosexual slasher porn. That's his other side. The others that there are some episodes of not episodes, entire seasons of American Horror Story that I'm like, am I watching like gay porn snuff films? What? This is insane. It's like dudes, shirtless dudes covered in blood, just making out with each other. This is the guy who made Glee. Anyway, Ryan Murphy's always been a curious individual. I can't imagine that both of that. That's how complicated people are, I guess. So Travis Kelce is now starring in a new Ryan Murphy show and making it for, is it Netflix? Is this a Netflix thing? Where's Murphy at now? He wasn't Netflix for a while. He's doing it with Niecy Nash, who is now a Ryan Murphy favorite after she played the neighbor in the Dahmer movie. So let's see here. What does this say? Travis Kelce is kicking off his Hollywood career. The Kansas City Chiefs player who has been dating Taylor Swift. Let's see. He's going to landed a role in his new Ryan Murphy's. He's landed a role in Ryan Murphy's new FX series, Grotesquerie. It's going to be more like slasher stuff. It's going to be weird. It's going to be like homoerotic slasher snuff stuff. That's what it's going to be. I'm telling you. That's what Ryan Murphy's about these days. All right, moving on. What else do we have here? Oh, summer movies. Okay, we can do this. All right, we'll do this list. Summer movies. It's time for everyone to talk about summer movies. God, he's smooth. If it was a radio show, you know, if it was on the radio, I'd be playing a jingle right now, and you wouldn't see me struggling to get into the summer box office. Okay, so last year's summer box office did $4 billion. That was, and they're like, that's not enough, because apparently before the pandemic, they used to do like 6, 7, but they came back last year, and it was the first really good summer season, blockbuster season, and they did $4 billion. Now, they did a lot of that off the strength of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Remember those two? Do you remember any other movies from last summer? Nah, just Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's it. So this year, they're a little bit concerned. They're like, we don't got nothing coming down the pike for this year. So they're expecting the worst summer film season in history. Do you plan on going to movies? Do you guys still go to movies? I mean, I don't go to movies because they're expensive. It's a luxury that it's just not something that I can do all the time. But I wonder if it wasn't a problem, like if it wasn't an economic barrier between me and going to movies, would I still go? I don't think I would. I don't think I like movies. I don't think I like going to theaters anymore. I don't know. Although I will say this, on the rare occasion that I do go, the last couple of times we go to this place down there in Victory Plaza in downtown, not downtown, in Victory Plaza. It's a really nice movie theater. I think it's called the Ophion. I don't know, something weird. Anyway, I like that theater. That's nice. Movie theaters are changing. Prices are still absurdly high. I mean, it's nice that you're now going to allow me to sit in a recliner chair that has a table, and you're going to bring me, you know, buffalo chicken sandwiches, but you know, I don't need a $25 buffalo chicken sandwich. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, so whatever. So movies are dying. They're trying to come up with new ways to get us back into the theaters. But let's talk about this summer's big blockbusters, because there are some. It's just that nothing's got anybody excited. For the first time since 2009, the summer box office doesn't have a Marvel film. First time since 2009. It's 15 years. First time in 15 summers that there hasn't been a big Marvel film. Instead of that, Universal has released The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy stumbled to 28 million during the first weekend in May. So The Fall Guy is, again, it's based on the TV show from the 1980s. Lee Majors as Colt Seaver, The Fall Guy. But it doesn't really hold true to that at all. It's not really. But anyway, and apparently that's not doing great. Looks kind of dumb. You know, I gotta be, it looks cool. It looks like a YouTube video I'd watch if it was like 9 minutes. I'd watch that if it was 9 minutes, but I don't know if I need an hour and a half of The Fall Guy. I don't know, whatever. If it comes, here's the thing. I won't get in my car. I won't put on shoes, and I won't drive through traffic to go to a theater to watch that. But if it pops on Netflix at some point while I'm laying on my bed, balancing popcorn on my shirtless belly, I may watch it. That's the problem that I think movie theaters are dealing with. Let's see. Okay, so the early failures of The Fall Guy doesn't bode well for the summer box office, which was already set to decline from last year's $4.1 billion haul after dual Hollywood labor strikes halted production and clogged the pipeline. So that's what they're blaming it on. They're blaming any failures this year on the Hollywood strike of last year. So here, these are the big movies that are coming out this summer. Let's see what we know about any of these, okay? On May the 9th, that's tomorrow, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. There's a new Planet of the Apes on May the 9th, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Not an original idea, just raking the past. If is another big one. They're saying If. I don't know anything about If. The Strangers, Chapter 1 on May the 17th. The Garfield movie on May the 24th. Garfield movie. Again, just we've seen Garfield. There's nothing new, nothing unique. June 7th. Oh man, Bad Boys, Ride or Die. Oh, again, nothing original, nothing new, just another Bad Boys movie. June 14th, Inside Out 2. Oh, Inside Out was a great piece of animation. I would have made us all think about our feelings and our emotions and all these things that are inside of us bubbling over. Let's milk it. Let's milk it to death. Inside Out 2. June 28th, A Quiet Place, Day 1. That's right, another sequel. July 3rd, big 4th of July weekend. What's the big one coming out on 4th of July weekend? Why, it's Despicable Me 4. All the good original shit is on TV. Nothing good, nothing original, nothing worth getting excited about is on a film screen anymore. It's no longer in a theater. Look at what I just gave you. I just gave you a Planet of the Apes movie, another Garfield movie, another Bad Boys movie, another Inside Out movie, another Quiet Place movie, a 4th Despicable Me movie, and then on July 19th, the big one, Twisters. That's right. You enjoyed Twister? Now get a load of Twisters. It's plural. Yeah. Then on July 26th, here's another big one. Now, this is one that I'm actually interested in, and I know that I'm a bit of a meatball for this, but whatever. July 26th, Deadpool and Wolverine. Huh? Is this what passes for an original idea now? You take two things that are not original ideas and go, let's take two things that are not original and put them together and see if that's original. Let's try. But I'll check out Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not against Deadpool and Wolverine. That seems like it's all right. Then, of course, on August the 16th, we've got Alien, Romulus. Yeah, another alien movie. No original films. None of these big. These are all the movies that are going to get the big marketing push from none of them. None of them are original. And rounding it out the summer, late summer, August the 23rd, a remake of The Crow. That's right, another Crow film. A remake of The Crow. Again, Hollywood is preparing for a bad summer weekend. They're expecting there not to be much heat at the box office, and they're blaming it on the strike and all that. No, we went through some stuff, and then this is their bill of sale. This is what they're giving us, and they're saying that it's not because these are shit films from tired genres on just retread ground. No, it's because of the strike. It's the strike that did it. Once again, the big movies this summer. Tell me, find the original. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the Garfield movie, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, Inside Out 2, A Quiet Place, Day 1, Despicable Me 4, Twisters, Deadpool and Wolverine, Alien, Romulus, it's a new Alien movie, and The Crow. There you go, Hollywood. Not going to cry for you. All right, there you go, folks. I think that's it. I think we're done. I think that's today's show. I don't think we made it. I don't think we crossed that line. So we're going to be done with the show. I appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. Help out the show if you can. Tip us. Keep us going. Did not hear any tips come in today. So we were needing $100. So whatever. Yeah, we go do something else. Listen to that fucking dog. She's driving me nuts. If you want to help out the show, you can do it on Cash App or Venmo. I've left it. It's right there. Appreciate you. You're the best. I guess I got to go walk the dog. She's going nuts. She's been going nuts now for about a half hour. She shouldn't be used to me being off the air at 2, right? Because I rarely am. She should be used to me being off the air right about now. All right. I love you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And again, like, subscribe, forward, share, do all of those things. Got to grow the show. Got to grow the show. Got to grow the show. Appreciate you. And again, if you can tip something, that'd be great. All right. Bye, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.